Greetings and salutations. Welcome to Dark Fanfics. We are thrilled to present today's story, What If Tonks was assigned to protect Harry at age 6 and her Metamorphmagus magic bonded them forever. If these stories bring joy to your day, please consider liking and subscribing. Every bit of support helps us continue this passion project. Now, prepare yourself for an amazing tale. Chapter 1. The Guardian's Oath. The flickering streetlights of Privet Drive cast long shadows across perfectly manicured lawns. Number 4 stood identical to its neighbors, same pruned hedges, same gleaming windows, same unremarkable facade. But inside this ordinary house, a most extraordinary boy lay awake in the darkness of the cupboard under the stairs. 6-year-old Harry Potter pressed his small palm against the wooden door, listening to the thunderous snores of Uncle Vernon upstairs. His stomach growled. He'd been sent to bed without dinner again after Dudley had claimed Harry had pushed him, when in truth, Dudley had tripped over his own untied shoelaces. Harry sighed, turning over on his thin mattress. A spider crawled across the sloped ceiling, and he watched it with mild interest. Spiders were his only companions in the cupboard. "At least you get to go wherever you want," he whispered. The cupboard suddenly felt colder. Harry pulled his ragged blanket tighter around his skinny shoulders, shivering as a strange sensation washed over him, like someone was watching. His eyes darted to the slats in the door. For a moment, he thought he saw something move in the hallway, a flicker of purple light. Harry blinked, and it was gone. Miles away in the ancient castle of Hogwarts, Albus Dumbledore stood by a silver instrument that emitted puffs of violet smoke. His half-moon spectacles reflected the strange light as he observed the device with growing concern. "How long has it been detecting these disturbances, Minerva?" he asked quietly. Professor McGonagall's lips pressed into a thin line. 3 weeks now, Albus. They're getting stronger." She gestured toward the instrument. "Whatever it is, it's circling the boy's home." Dumbledore stroked his long silver beard thoughtfully. "The blood wards are holding, but something is testing them." He moved to the window, gazing out at the starlit grounds of Hogwarts. "We cannot risk bringing Harry here yet. He's too young, and it would expose him to too much attention." "Then what do you suggest?" McGonagall asked sharply. "We can't leave the boy unprotected if something is attempting to breach the wards." A small smile appeared beneath Dumbledore's beard. "I believe I may have just the right person for this particular task." "Not Hagrid," McGonagall said immediately. "He's too conspicuous for surveillance." "No, not Hagrid." Dumbledore turned, his blue eyes twinkling. "I was thinking of someone who specializes in, not being noticed." In a small flat in London, 23-year-old Nymphadora Tonks awoke with a start as her fluff flared green. She tumbled out of bed, her hair shifting from peaceful blue to alarmed red as she grabbed her wand from the nightstand. "Who's there?" she called, pointing her wand at the fireplace. "Nymphadora, might I have a word?" came Dumbledore's calm voice from the flames. Tonks groaned, her hair fading to an irritated orange. "Professor Dumbledore, it's 3 in the morning. And please, just Tonks." "My apologies for the hour, Tonks," Dumbledore replied. "But I have a matter of some urgency to discuss. May I come through?" She glanced down at her weird sister's pajamas and sighed. "Give me 5 minutes to make myself decent, sir." 4 minutes later, Albus Dumbledore stepped through the fireplace into Tonks's cluttered living room. She'd managed to throw on jeans and a t-shirt, but her pink hair stood up in all directions. "Thanks for the warning," she said, hastily clearing takeaway containers from her coffee table. "Tea." "Thank you, but this won't take long." Dumbledore remained standing, his expression serious. "I have a special assignment for you, if you're willing." Tonks straightened up. Despite being clumsy in everyday life, she was one of the most promising young Aurors in training. Assignments directly from Dumbledore were rare and significant. "What kind of assignment?" she asked cautiously. "A protection detail," Dumbledore said. "For a very important young wizard." Her eyebrows shot up. You don't mean, Harry Potter, yes. Dumbledore nodded. We've detected unusual magical activity around his home. The protective wards are being tested. Tonks's hair shifted to a concerned blue. Death Eaters? Unknown, Dumbledore admitted. But we need someone who can observe without being observed. Someone who can change their appearance at will and blend into both the wizarding and muggle worlds. Why me? Tonks asked. I'm still in training. Wouldn't Moody or Shacklebolt be better choices? Dumbledore's eyes twinkled. Because, dear Nymphadora, Tonks. Tonks, you possess something they do not. A unique perspective. You're young enough to remember what it's like to be a child, yet trained enough to handle threats. And your Metamorphmagus abilities make you uniquely suited for undercover work in a muggle neighborhood. Tonks chewed her lip, her hair cycling through colors as she considered. What about my aura training? I've already spoken with Alastair. He agrees this would be excellent field experience for you. Of course he does, Tonks muttered. Mad-Eye Moody's idea of excellent experience usually involved mortal peril. She took a deep breath. What exactly would I be doing? Observing, primarily. Taking up residence nearby. Establishing a presence in the neighborhood that won't arouse suspicion. And if necessary, protecting the boy. Dumbledore's voice grew grave. Harry Potter is not merely important to our world, Tonks. He's a child who deserves to grow up safely. Something in his tone struck a chord. Tonks nodded firmly, her hair settling into a determined purple. When do I start? 2 days later, a young woman with short brown hair and unremarkable features moved into a small rental house 3 streets away from Privet Drive. The neighbors barely noticed her arrival, just another young professional starting out, they assumed. If anyone had bothered to check her credentials, they would have found that Ms. Theodora Thompson was a perfectly legitimate junior account manager at a firm in London who commuted to work each day. What they couldn't know was that Theodora spent most of her days carefully monitoring the comings and goings at number 4 Privet Drive, and her nights patrolling the area for magical disturbances. After a week of observation, Tonks was seething. The Dursleys' treatment of Harry Potter was appalling. The boy was clearly undernourished, dressed in clothes several sizes too large, and made to do chores no 6-year-old should handle. Meanwhile, his whale of a cousin was pampered and spoiled rotten. Horrid people, she muttered, watching through binoculars as Harry struggled to weed the garden while Petunia Dursley critiqued his work from the shade. How could Dumbledore leave him with these monsters? She'd reported her observations back to Dumbledore, but he'd merely sighed and explained about the blood protection through Lily Potter's sacrifice and her sister's home. The boy may not be happy, but he is safe, Dumbledore had said. Tonks disagreed vehemently, but she'd held her tongue. For now, she'd follow orders. Watch and protect, don't interfere. But that didn't mean she couldn't find small ways to help. Her first opportunity came 3 days later, when she, accidentally, bumped into Harry at the local park. The boy was sitting alone on a swing while Dudley and his friends played on the more exciting equipment, occasionally shouting insults at Harry. Tonks approached casually, taking the swing next to him. She'd assumed the appearance of a teenager today, with dark hair pulled into a ponytail and friendly brown eyes. Hi there, she said cheerfully. Mind if I swing? Harry looked up, clearly surprised that anyone would willingly talk to him. I don't mind. Tonks began swinging gently. I'm Dora. Just moved to the area. I'm Harry, he replied quietly. Nice to meet you, Harry. Those boys over there friends of yours? She asked, nodding toward Dudley's gang. Harry snorted. No. That's my cousin Dudley and his friends. They don't like me much. Their loss, Tonks said with a shrug. She dug into her pocket and pulled out a chocolate bar. Want some? I always carry chocolate. My mum says it's good for everything. Harry's eyes widened at the offer, but then darted nervously toward Dudley. I'd better not. If Dudley sees. Ah, Tonks nodded, understanding immediately. She glanced around conspiratorially, then broke off a large piece. Here's what we'll do. You can eat it now, quick, before they look this way. No evidence. A small smile broke across Harry's face, the first she'd seen, as he accepted the chocolate. He ate it quickly, almost frantically, and Tonks felt her heart break a little. The boy who lived, savior of the wizarding world, afraid to accept a piece of chocolate. Thanks, he said, licking the last bit from his fingers. Anytime, Harry. She smiled. I come to this park most afternoons. If you're ever here and want company that doesn't involve getting bullied, just look for me. Over the next 2 weeks, Tonks, coincidentally, ran into Harry several more times, always in different guises, a teenage girl, a young mother with a toddler, once even as an elderly woman feeding birds. She kept the encounters brief and casual, but made sure to provide small kindnesses, a snack, a band-aid for a scrape, or simply a friendly conversation. What she didn't know was that Harry had begun to notice something strange. Despite the different appearances, there was something familiar about all these kind strangers, something in their smile or the way they spoke to him. And sometimes, just sometimes, he thought he saw their hair or eyes change color for the briefest moment. Meanwhile, Dumbledore's silver instrument continued to emit increasingly urgent puffs of purple smoke. Whatever was testing the wards was growing stronger, more determined. The attack came on a rainy Tuesday evening. Harry was trudging home from school, soaked to the skin because Dudley had taken his umbrella. The street was deserted, sheets of rain reducing visibility to mere feet. He didn't notice the hooded figure until it was directly in front of him. Harry stopped, a chill that had nothing to do with the rain running down his spine. The figure stood unnaturally still, raindrops seeming to avoid its dark cloak. A pale hand emerged, pointing at Harry. Harry Potter, a voice rasped, barely audible above the storm. Harry backed away instinctively. Who are you? The figure moved closer. The Dark Lord's faithful servant. The one who will bring you to him. Fear gripped Harry's chest. He turned to run, but slipped on the wet pavement, falling hard. Pain shot through his knees and palms. The hooded figure loomed over him, drawing a wand. Crucio, it hissed. Time seemed to slow. Harry saw a jet of red light streak toward him, and then a blur of motion as someone hurled themselves between him and the spell. Protego, a woman's voice shouted. The shield charm wasn't fully formed, the curse partially broke through, causing his defender to cry out in pain. She stumbled but remained standing, her wand aimed at the attacker. Harry gasped as he recognized her, the friendly teen from the park, though her hair was rapidly cycling through colors now, settling on an angry red. You'll have to go through me to get to him, she growled. The hooded figure paused. Another time, then. It disapparated with a crack that was almost lost in a thunderclap. Tonks turned to Harry, her features shifting rapidly with the strain of the partial cruciatus curse. Are you all right? She managed, dropping to one knee beside him. Harry stared at her in shock and wonder. Your face, your hair. Yeah, about that, Tonks began, but suddenly doubled over in pain. What's wrong? Harry asked, panic rising in his voice. Curse after effects, she gasped. Need to get you somewhere safe. She tried to stand but collapsed again. Harry, acting on instinct, grabbed her hand to help her up, and the world exploded in purple light. A surge of wild magic erupted where their hands connected. Harry felt a burning sensation race up his arm, across his chest, and throughout his entire body. Tonks was glowing too, her eyes wide with shock as purple flames that didn't burn enveloped them both. In his cupboard at Privet Drive, Harry's few possessions began to float. At Tonks's flat in London, her furniture rattled and lifted off the ground. At Hogwarts, Dumbledore's silver instrument shattered, showering his office with molten silver. The magical storm lasted only seconds, but when it subsided, Harry and Tonks remained connected by a thread of purple light between their joined hands. Slowly, it faded into their skin. Tonks stared at Harry, her pain forgotten. What in Merlin's name was that? Harry looked equally stunned. Magic, he whispered. You know about magic? Tonks asked, then shook her head. Never mind that now. We need to move. Can you walk? Harry nodded, helping her to her feet. Strangely, he felt stronger than before, energized rather than frightened. Tonks seemed to be recovering too, her movements becoming steadier. We'll go to my place, she decided. It's warded. You'll be safe there. But my aunt and uncle, Harry began. We'll have to wait, Tonks finished firmly. Someone just tried to kill you, Harry. This changes everything. As they walked, supporting each other through the rain, neither noticed that when Harry stumbled, his hair briefly turned black with a streak of pink, or that when Tonks tripped over a curb, her eyes flashed green for just a moment. Tonks's safe house was small but comfortable, protected by concealment charms and basic defensive wards. Once inside, she cast drying spells on them both and sat Harry down at the kitchen table. Hot chocolate first, explanations second, she said, setting a kettle to boil with a flick of her wand. Harry watched her, fascination overriding his fear. You're a witch, he said matter-of-factly. Tonks raised an eyebrow. And you know about witches? Interesting. I thought those muggles would have squashed any talk of magic. Muggles? Non-magical folk. Like your aunt and uncle. She placed a steaming mug in front of him. I'm Nymphadora Tonks, by the way. Just call me Tonks if you value your life. Despite everything, Harry smiled. You've been following me. All those different people at the park, that was you, wasn't it? Guilty. Tonks grinned, allowing her features to cycle through several of her park disguises before settling back on her preferred heart-shaped face and pink hair. I'm a Metamorphmagus, can change my appearance at will. Dead useful for an Orin training. Or magical law enforcement. Like police, but for wizards. She took a deep drink of her hot chocolate. I was assigned to protect you. Protect me from what? And why me? Harry asked, then hesitated. Is it because of this? He pushed back his fringe, revealing the lightning-shaped scar. Tonks nearly choked on her drink. You know about your scar too? What exactly did those Dursleys tell you? Just that I got it in the car crash that killed my parents, Harry said quietly. Tonks's hair turned a dangerous red. Car crash. Car crash. James and Lily Potter didn't die in a bloody car crash. Harry's eyes widened. They didn't. Then how? They were murdered, Harry, Tonks said, her voice softening. By a very dark wizard called Voldemort. The same wizard that gave you that scar when he tried to kill you too. Harry's hand went to his forehead. Someone tried to kill me. When I was a baby. Yes, but somehow, you survived. The killing curse rebounded and destroyed Voldemort instead. That's why you're famous in our world. You're the boy who lived. Harry sat in stunned silence, trying to process this information. Finally, he asked, so that person tonight, they worked for this Voldemort? Seems like it, Tonks said grimly. Which is troubling, because Voldemort is supposed to be dead. Though Dumbledore always said. She trailed off, her expression turning worried. Dumbledore. I need to contact him immediately. She stood up, but swayed suddenly, grabbing the edge of the table. Are you okay? Harry asked, reaching for her arm to steady her. The moment they touched, that strange purple glow returned, fainter this time but unmistakable. Tonks gasped as a flood of feelings washed over her, confusion, fear, wonder, and underneath it all, a desperate longing to belong somewhere. Harry, she said slowly, are you feeling different? He nodded, looking equally bewildered. I can feel what you're feeling. You're worried. About me, but also about something else, something about a bond. Tonks stared at him. How did you know that? I didn't say anything about a bond. I don't know. I just knew. Harry frowned, concentrating. And your knee hurts where you fell earlier. And your stomach is growling because you didn't get lunch today, Tonks countered, suddenly aware of a hollow feeling that wasn't her own. They looked at each other in amazement and trepidation. That magical explosion when we touched earlier, Tonks said slowly. I think it did something to us. Connected us somehow. Is that normal? Harry asked. Tonks shook her head. Nothing about this is normal, Harry. We need Dumbledore. Now. She moved to the fireplace, threw in a handful of Floo powder, and called out, Hogwarts, headmaster's office, before sticking her head into the green flames. A moment later, she was engaged in an urgent conversation, her voice too muffled for Harry to make out the words. He sat quietly, sipping his hot chocolate and trying to sort through the barrage of new information, and new sensations, flooding his mind. He was a wizard. His parents had been murdered. He was famous. And now he was somehow magically connected to a witch with pink hair who could feel his hunger and read his thoughts. It was, by any measure, the strangest day of Harry Potter's life. The fireplace flared green again, and Tonks pulled her head out, looking troubled. He's coming through, she announced. Seconds later, the flames roared higher, and a tall, thin man with a long silver beard and half-moon spectacles stepped gracefully into the living room. Despite the late hour and the emergency summons, he appeared perfectly composed in sweeping midnight blue robes adorned with silver stars. Good evening, Harry, he said kindly. I am Professor Albus Dumbledore. Harry felt an immediate sense of awe, and beneath it, a touch of wariness that he realized was coming from Tonks. Hello, sir, he replied politely. Dumbledore turned to Tonks. Nymphadora, perhaps you could explain what occurred this evening. Your message was rather fragmented. As Tonks recounted the attack and the subsequent magical phenomenon, Dumbledore's expression grew increasingly grave. When she described the purple light and their newfound ability to sense each other's emotions and physical sensations, he removed his spectacles and pinched the bridge of his nose, a gesture Harry somehow knew was rare for the composed headmaster. May I examine you both? Dumbledore asked when Tonks finished her account. They nodded, and Dumbledore drew his wand. He performed a series of complex movements, murmuring incantations under his breath. The air around Harry and Tonks shimmered with colorful lights, gold, blue, and most prominently, a deep violet that seemed to flow between them like a current. After several minutes, Dumbledore lowered his wand, looking troubled. What is it, Professor? Tonks asked anxiously. What's happened to us? Something exceedingly rare, Dumbledore replied, returning to his seat. What I believe you've experienced is the formation of an anima vinculum, a soul bond. A what? Harry and Tonks exclaimed simultaneously. A magical connection of the deepest kind, Dumbledore explained. They are extraordinarily uncommon, and typically form only under very specific circumstances. In this case, I believe Ms. Tonks's act of self-sacrifice, throwing herself between Harry and the Cruciatus curse, combined with her Metamorphmagus abilities, created the perfect conditions. But what does it mean? Tonks pressed. What's going to happen to us? Dumbledore's blue eyes moved between them thoughtfully. The bond is still forming, still defining itself. But based on what I can observe, your magical cores are now linked. You will likely continue to share sensations, emotions, perhaps even thoughts. And there may be other effects. What kind of effects? Harry asked. That remains to be seen, Dumbledore said cryptically. Each bond is unique. But the fact that Ms. Tonks is a Metamorphmagus complicates matters. Her inherent magical nature involves transformation and adaptation. It's possible some of these traits may transfer through the bond. Harry's eyes widened. You mean I might be able to change how I look too? Perhaps. And Ms. Tonks may gain some of your natural abilities as well. Tonks looked alarmed. Dumbledore, I can't be bonded to a 6-year-old. I'm an Auror trainee. I have a career, a life. I understand your concern, Dumbledore said gently. However, the bond appears to be permanent. And more pressingly, it has disrupted the blood protection at Privet Drive. Harry can no longer return there. Good. Tonks exclaimed. Have you seen how those muggles treat him? Dumbledore sighed. I was aware the situation was not ideal, but the blood protection took precedence. Now, however, we must make new arrangements. He turned to Harry. I'm afraid your life has become rather complicated, Harry. Harry looked between the two adults, feeling overwhelmed but also, strangely, hopeful. Does this mean I don't have to go back to the Dursleys? No, you don't, Dumbledore confirmed. The bond has created a new form of protection, one tied to Ms. Tonks rather than your blood relatives. For your safety, and due to the nature of this bond, you will need to stay with her for the foreseeable future. Tonks's hair cycled rapidly through colors, red, yellow, blue, purple, before settling on a determined pink. Right, she said firmly. Then I'll be his guardian. You're certain? Dumbledore asked, studying her intently. It's an enormous responsibility. I don't have much choice, do I? Tonks replied, but then her expression softened as she looked at Harry. Besides, anyone's better than those dreadful Dursleys. Harry felt a rush of gratitude that wasn't entirely his own. Very well, Dumbledore agreed. I'll make the necessary arrangements. In the meantime, I suggest you both get some rest. The formation of such a bond takes a considerable toll on one's magic and stamina. As if on cue, Harry yawned widely, suddenly aware of how exhausted he felt. There's a spare bedroom down the hall, Tonks told him. Let me show you. As they stood, Dumbledore added, one more thing. I would recommend maintaining physical contact periodically over the next few days. It will help stabilize the bond and reduce any discomfort that might arise from separation. Tonks nodded, then guided Harry to the bedroom. It was small but infinitely nicer than his cupboard, a real bed with clean sheets, a wardrobe, even a small desk by the window. It's not much, Tonks apologized, but we'll make it more homey tomorrow. It's brilliant, Harry said sincerely. Tonks smiled, then hesitated. Listen, Harry. I know this is all completely mental. I'm still processing it myself. But I want you to know that I'll do my best to keep you safe and make sure you're happy. That was my job even before this weird bond thing, and it still is. Thank you, Harry said quietly. Then, after a moment's hesitation, he asked, what's going to happen now? Honestly? I have no idea. But we'll figure it out together. She squeezed his shoulder gently. Get some sleep. Tomorrow, we'll deal with the Dursleys and start sorting out this new life of ours. As Harry climbed into bed, he felt an unfamiliar sensation, a warm certainty that things were going to be all right. It took him a moment to realize that some of that feeling was coming from Tonks, filtering through their bond. For the first time in his memory, Harry Potter fell asleep feeling safe. The next morning, Harry woke to the smell of bacon frying. For a disoriented moment, he thought he was back at Privet Drive, expected to cook breakfast for the Dursleys. Then the events of the previous day came rushing back, and he sat up, looking around the unfamiliar bedroom in wonder. It hadn't been a dream. He really was in Tonks's house. He really was a wizard. And they really were somehow magically bonded. He climbed out of bed, still wearing yesterday's oversized clothes, and followed the delicious smell to the kitchen. Tonks stood at the stove, her hair a cheerful yellow this morning, humming as she flipped pancakes with her wand. Morning, she said brightly when she spotted him. Sleep well? Harry nodded, sliding into a chair at the table. Is Professor Dumbledore still here? Nah, he left after you went to bed. Had to start arranging things. She levitated a plate stacked with pancakes and bacon onto the table in front of him. Eat up. We've got a busy day ahead. Harry didn't need to be told twice. He dug in eagerly, trying not to appear too ravenous despite his hunger. Tonks sat across from him with her own plate. So, I've been thinking about our situation, she began. There's good news and weird news. What's the good news? Harry asked between bites. Dumbledore's making it official, I'm going to be your guardian. Magical and legal. No more Dursleys. Harry's face lit up. Really? That's brilliant. I thought you'd like that, Tonks grinned. The weird news is about this bond. I've been reading up on it, she gestured to a stack of ancient-looking books on the counter, and it's definitely going to take some getting used to. What did you find out? Well, for starters, we're going to need to be near each other, at least for the first few months while the bond stabilizes. Being too far apart could make us both magically and physically ill. Harry frowned. But don't you have to work? And what about when I go to school? That's the thing, I'm taking a leave from Auror training. Dumbledore's arranged it with Mad Eye. As for school, we'll have to figure that out. Maybe homeschooling for a bit. She took a sip of tea. There's also the matter of our magic potentially mingling. You mean I might be able to change my appearance like you? Maybe, eventually. The books aren't clear on exactly what abilities might transfer, but they do suggest we'll develop some shared magical traits. And there's something else, Tonks hesitated, looking uncertain. What? Harry prompted. The bond seems to be affecting my Metamorphmagus abilities in unexpected ways. This morning, I tried to change my eye color, and this happened. She concentrated for a moment, and her eyes shifted color, to a bright, familiar green identical to Harry's. They're like mine. Harry exclaimed. Exactly. I've never been able to do that precise shade before. And when I tried to change back, she concentrated again, and her eyes returned to their natural dark state, but with tiny flecks of green remaining. I can't completely undo it. Harry unconsciously touched his scar. Is that bad? Not bad, just strange. It's like your magical signature is becoming part of mine. Tonks smiled reassuringly. We'll adapt, Harry. That's what I do best, after all. After breakfast, Tonks lent Harry some clothes she'd shrunk down to his size, jeans and a t-shirt that actually fit for once, and they prepared to visit Privet Drive. We need to collect your things and formally inform your relatives of the change in custody, Tonks explained, now disguised as a severe-looking woman in a business suit, her hair brown and neatly styled. Dumbledore sent an owl this morning, they're expecting us. Harry doubted the Dursleys would be too upset to see him go, but he was nervous nonetheless. Will we tell them about the bond? He asked. Merlin, no, Tonks laughed. They'll just be told I'm your new guardian due to special circumstances. The less they know about our world, the better. They arrived at number 4 to find Vernon Dursley already purple-faced with anger, Petunia thin-lipped beside him in the living room. So you're the one taking the boy, Vernon growled as Tonks introduced herself as Ms. Thompson from the Special Cases Department. That's right, Tonks replied coolly. Harry will be coming to live with me effective immediately. I just need you to sign these papers. She produced an official-looking document from her briefcase. And good riddance, Vernon muttered, snatching the papers. Always knew he'd end up in some special institution. Unnatural, just like his parents. Tonks's hair momentarily flickered red before she controlled herself. Harry felt her anger bubbling through their connection and instinctively moved closer to her. Actually, Tonks said with forced calm, Harry has been identified as having special talents that require specialized education. He'll be living with me as my ward. Special talents? Petunia echoed suspiciously. You mean, yes, Mrs. Dursley, Tonks confirmed, dropping her voice. Exactly like his mother. Petunia paled, and Vernon's face darkened further. We took him in out of the goodness of our hearts, Vernon blustered. Clothed him, fed him, barely, Tonks interjected sharply. And kept him in a cupboard. Yes, I'm well aware of how you've cared for him. Vernon spluttered indignantly, but Tonks cut him off. Just sign the papers, Mr. Dursley. Then Harry and I will collect his things and be on our way. 10 minutes later, Harry stood in his cupboard for what he hoped would be the last time, gathering his few possessions, some broken toy soldiers, a couple of Dudley's discarded books, and a small blanket he'd had for as long as he could remember. Tonks appeared in the doorway, her expression softening as she took in the cramped, dusty space. Is this really where you slept? She asked quietly. Harry nodded, embarrassed. Tonks's jaw tightened. Right. Got everything you want to keep? Yes, Harry said, clutching his small bundle. Then let's go home, shall we? Tonks held out her hand, and Harry took it without hesitation. As they walked down Privet Drive for the last time, Harry felt lighter than he could ever remember. Behind them, the wards around number 4 flickered and faded, replaced by a shimmering purple shield that now surrounded both Harry and his new guardian. Neither of them noticed the shadowy figure watching from a distance, or heard the soft pop of disapparition as it vanished to report this unexpected development to its master. Back at Tonks's house, they found Professor Dumbledore waiting for them, along with a stern-looking witch with square spectacles who was introduced as Professor McGonagall. I've come to test the strength of the bond and help Ms. Tonks secure this residence, Dumbledore explained. Minerva is here to assess Harry's current magical development. While Dumbledore worked on enhancing the protective enchantments around the house, McGonagall sat with Harry at the kitchen table. Potter, she said briskly, though not unkindly, I'd like you to try a simple exercise. Take this feather, she produced a white quill from her robes, and see if you can make it float. Harry looked uncertainly at Tonks, who gave him an encouraging nod. Just focus on the feather, McGonagall instructed. Imagine it becoming lighter than air. Harry stared intently at the feather, concentrating with all his might. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, just as he was about to give up, the feather trembled and rose half an inch off the table. Very good, Potter. McGonagall looked impressed. Most children your age couldn't manage even that much without a wand. Harry beamed with pride, but then noticed something strange. His fingertips had turned pink, the same shade as Tonks's hair. He gasped, showing Tonks. It's starting already, she murmured, fascinated. Dumbledore, who had finished his work and returned to the kitchen, observed this development with great interest. Remarkable. The bond appears to be facilitating an exchange of magical abilities much sooner than I anticipated. Is it dangerous? McGonagall asked sharply. Not dangerous, no, Dumbledore assured her. But certainly unprecedented. I believe we're witnessing the formation of a truly unique magical connection, one that may have far-reaching implications. What do you mean? Tonks asked. Dumbledore stroked his beard thoughtfully. Harry has already demonstrated unusual magical potential for his age. Combined with your Metamorphmagus abilities, Ms. Tonks, the possibilities are quite extraordinary. But what does it mean for us? Tonks pressed. For our daily lives. That will largely be up to you to discover, Dumbledore replied. But I would recommend beginning Harry's magical education immediately. The sooner he learns to control his abilities, both innate and those he may acquire through your bond, the better. McGonagall nodded in agreement. I've prepared a preliminary curriculum. She handed Tonks a scroll. Basic magical theory, history, and simple wandless exercises appropriate for his age. When he turns 11, he'll still receive his Hogwarts letter, of course. And what about me? Tonks asked. Am I just supposed to put my life on hold for the next 5 years? Not at all, Dumbledore said. In fact, I've spoken with Alastair. He's agreed to continue your Auror training here, through private instruction, 3 days a week. The rest of your time will be devoted to Harry's education and protection." Tonks looked slightly mollified. "Well, that's something, at least." "Additionally," Dumbledore continued, "I've arranged for a modest stipend from a special fund to support you both. Harry's parents left him well provided for, but those funds can't be accessed until he comes of age." After McGonagall and Dumbledore departed, Tonks collapsed onto the sofa with a heavy sigh. "Well, that's that. We're officially in this together." Harry sat beside her, still marveling at his pink-tinged fingertips, which were slowly returning to their normal color. "I'm sorry," he said suddenly. "For what?" Tonks looked genuinely puzzled. "For ruining your life. You didn't ask to be stuck with me." "Hey." Tonks turned to face him fully, her hair shifting to a gentle blue. "You haven't ruined anything, Harry. This isn't your fault. And being stuck with you isn't a punishment, it's an adventure." Harry didn't look convinced. "But your job, your friends, will still be there," Tonks finished firmly. "Just in a slightly different way than before. Look, Harry, I won't pretend this isn't a massive change for both of us. It is. But I meant what I said yesterday, we'll figure it out together. Promise?" Harry asked, his voice small. "Promise," Tonks replied, holding out her pinky finger. "Pinky swear, which is the most serious kind of promise there is." Harry linked his pinky with hers, and a faint purple glow surrounded their joined hands. They both felt the bond between them pulse, as if confirming the oath. "Now," Tonks said, standing up and stretching, "what do you say we see what else this bond can do? I'm curious if you've inherited any of my clumsiness along with the color-changing fingers." Harry grinned, feeling a surge of excitement that was partly his, partly Tonks's. For the first time in his life, he had something that felt like family, someone who wanted him, who was promising to stay. It was worth any amount of magical strangeness. "Let's find out," he agreed. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of adjustment and discovery. Harry and Tonks quickly settled into a routine, mornings devoted to basic magical theory and education, afternoons for practical exercises and exploration of their bond, and evenings spent relaxing together, often reading magical storybooks that Tonks had loved as a child. 3 days a week, Mad-Eye Moody would arrive to continue Tonks's aura training, his magical eye constantly swiveling toward Harry, who found the grizzled ex-auror both terrifying and fascinating. On those days, Harry would practice quiet concentration exercises in the corner while Tonks dueled and studied. Constant vigilance. Moody would bellow randomly, making both of them jump. "Good reflexes, Potter," he'd grunt when Harry instinctively ducked or shielded himself. "You'll make a fine auror someday." The bond between them continued to develop in unexpected ways. Harry discovered he could indeed change his appearance, though not with Tonks's effortless control. His transformations were limited to hair color and minor facial adjustments, and they often happened involuntarily when his emotions ran high. Tonks, meanwhile, found herself occasionally sharing Harry's exceptional reflexes and, more disturbingly, his nightmares. More than once, she woke in the middle of the night, her scar-free forehead burning with phantom pain, remnants of Harry's dreams of green light and high-pitched laughter lingering in her mind. "It's getting stronger," she confided to Dumbledore during one of his periodic visits. "Sometimes I can't tell where his feelings end and mine begin." Dumbledore nodded gravely. "The bond is still maturing. In time, you'll develop natural boundaries. And if we don't?" Tonks asked, watching Harry through the window as he practiced changing his hair color in the garden. "Then you'll adapt," Dumbledore said simply. "As you've both already shown remarkable capacity to do." Despite the challenges, there were many joyful moments. Harry thrived under Tonks's care, gaining weight, growing more confident, and developing a mischievous streak that matched his guardian's. His magical abilities progressed rapidly, fueled by both the bond and his natural talent. For her part, Tonks discovered an unexpected fulfillment in her new role. While she sometimes missed the camaraderie of aura training with her peers, she found teaching Harry rewarding in ways she hadn't anticipated. And though she'd never considered herself the maternal type, she grew fiercely protective of her young ward. Their bond became a source of strength rather than limitation. They learned to use it tactically, sensing each other's locations, sharing impressions without words, even drawing on each other's magical energy when needed. But the peace couldn't last forever. 3 months after the formation of their bond, Tonks was awakened in the dead of night by an alarm spell triggering. She leapt from bed, wand in hand, and rushed to Harry's room. He was sitting upright, eyes wide, scar livid against his pale forehead. "Someone's here," he whispered. Tonks nodded grimly. She'd felt it too, a malevolent presence pushing against the wards. "Stay behind me," she instructed, moving toward the window. Outside, 3 hooded figures stood at the edge of the property, wands raised, sending pulses of dark magic against the protective enchantments. The wards were holding, but beginning to flicker under the assault. "We need to go," Tonks said decisively. "Emergency Plan Alpha. Get your go bag." They had prepared for this possibility. Harry quickly pulled on clothes and grabbed a pre-packed backpack from beneath his bed. Tonks did the same, then took his hand. "Ready?" Harry nodded, his face set in determination that belied his 6 years. Through their bond, Tonks could feel his fear, but also his trust in her. She led him to the kitchen fireplace. "We'll float to the safe location, then disapparate from there." Just as she reached for the flow powder, a massive magical explosion rocked the house. The wards had fallen. "Change of plan," Tonks muttered. "Hold on to me, Harry. We're going to try something we haven't practiced yet." Harry gripped her hand tightly as footsteps pounded toward the front door. "Focus on our bond," Tonks instructed urgently. "Feel the connection between us, and push your magic into it, like we did with the levitation exercise, but stronger." Harry closed his eyes, concentrating. Tonks did the same. The purple light of their bond began to glow around their joined hands, spreading to envelop them both. The front door exploded inward. A Death Eater stepped through, wand raised. "There he began, but stopped short at the sight before him. Tonks and Harry were surrounded by a swirling vortex of purple energy, their features blurring as if seen through rippling water. As the Death Eater fired a spell, the vortex collapsed inward with a thunderous crack, and they vanished. They reappeared miles away, in a small clearing in a forest that Tonks had once visited as a child. Both collapsed to the ground, gasping. "Did we just apparate?" Harry asked weakly. "Sort of," Tonks managed, equally drained. "But not like any apparition I've ever done before. It was like the bond created its own method of transport." They lay side by side, recovering their strength as the first light of dawn filtered through the trees. Their bond hummed between them, strained but unbroken by the extraordinary magic they'd just performed. "They found us," Harry said finally. "How?" "I don't know," Tonks admitted. "But we're safe for now. And we'll be ready for them next time." As the sun rose over the forest, casting dappled light across their exhausted faces, Harry reached out to take Tonks's hand again. No words were needed. Through their bond, she felt his determination, his courage, and his unwavering faith in her. Tonks squeezed his hand in return, sending back her own fierce protectiveness and a promise, whatever came next, they would face it together. The soul bond had changed them both in ways they were only beginning to understand. But one thing was certain, Harry Potter would never be alone again. Chapter 2, Shadows Between Worlds. Morning light filtered through ancient oaks, casting dappled shadows across the forest clearing. Harry woke with a jolt, momentarily confused by the canopy of leaves overhead instead of his bedroom ceiling. A dull ache pulsed behind his temples, the magical aftermath of their desperate escape. Beside him, Tonks was already awake, her wand moving in careful patterns as she reinforced the protective enchantments around their makeshift camp. Her hair was a subdued brown this morning, practical and inconspicuous. Through their bond, Harry felt her concentration, tinged with worry. "Morning," he croaked, his throat dry. Tonks turned, her serious expression melting into a smile. "Hey there, sleepyhead. How's the head?" "Hurts a bit," Harry admitted, sitting up. The events of the previous night came rushing back, the alarm, the Death Eaters, their extraordinary escape through the bond. "Where exactly are we?" "Forest of Dean." Tonks handed him a canteen of water. "Used to camp here with my dad when I was little. It's isolated, unplottable, and the magical signature of the forest itself should help mask our presence." Harry drank deeply, then asked the question that had been gnawing at him since they fled. "How did they find us?" Tonks sighed, her hair flashing momentarily red before returning to brown. "That's what I've been trying to figure out. The house was under every protection Dumbledore and I could manage. They shouldn't have been able to trace us. Unless..." Harry hesitated. "Unless what?" "Unless it's me they can trace. Because of this." He touched his scar. Tonks knelt in front of him, her eyes serious. "Harry, listen to me. This isn't your fault. Those wizards who attacked us, they're the same ones who've been hunting you since you were a baby. They're servants of Voldemort, and they want you because you're the only person who ever survived his attack." "But why did he want to kill me in the first place?" Harry asked. "I was just a baby." A flicker of uncertainty passed through their bond. "I don't know all the details," Tonks admitted. "Dumbledore might, but he's been selective with information." She began rummaging through her backpack, pulling out a small tent that looked impossibly compact. With a flick of her wand, it expanded and erected itself, a modest canvas structure that somehow seemed larger than it should be. "Wizard tent," she explained, seeing Harry's amazed expression. "Bigger on the inside. Not exactly 5-star accommodations, but it'll do until we figure out our next move." Inside, the tent was indeed much larger, with a small kitchen area, 2 cot beds, and a tiny bathroom. It smelled slightly of cats and mothballs. "Borrowed it from an old Auror friend," Tonks explained, wrinkling her nose. "He's retired now, uses it for fishing trips." "It's brilliant," Harry said sincerely. After years in a cupboard, even this modest space felt luxurious. Tonks began unpacking provisions, bread, cheese, some apples, and a few sealed containers of what looked like soup. "We've got enough food for about a week. By then, we should have heard from Dumbledore." "You contacted him?" "Sent a Patronus message while you were sleeping. One of the first things Moody taught me, emergency communications." She handed him an apple. "Eat up. We need to start your lessons." Harry blinked in surprise. "We're still doing lessons? Even out here?" "Especially out here." Tonks's expression turned serious. "What happened last night proved something. Our bond gives us abilities that even trained wizards don't expect. But we need to understand it better, control it better. That means practice." After a simple breakfast, they moved back outside to the clearing. The morning was cool but clear, perfect for concentration. Tonks conjured a comfortable blanket for them to sit on and placed a small feather between them, similar to the one Professor McGonagall had given Harry for his first magic lesson. "We're going to start with something basic," she explained. "Combining our magic through the bond to perform a simple spell. Ready?" Harry nodded eagerly. Despite the danger and uncertainty of their situation, he couldn't help feeling excited. This was real magic, not just theory from books, but practical skills he might need to survive. "Close your eyes," Tonks instructed. "Feel the bond between us. It's like a thread of energy connecting your magical core to mine." Harry obeyed, focusing inward. At first, he felt nothing but his own heartbeat and the gentle breeze on his face. Then, gradually, he became aware of something else, a warm, pulsing sensation in his chest that extended outward like a purple ribbon, connecting to Tonks. "I can feel it," he whispered. "Good. Now, keep that connection in mind, but open your eyes and look at the feather. We're going to levitate it together." They both extended their hands, Tonks holding her wand, Harry empty-handed, and concentrated on the feather. Harry felt Tonks's magic flow through their bond, smooth and controlled, guiding his own raw power. Wingardium Leviosa, Tonks said clearly. The feather rose steadily into the air, higher than Harry had ever managed before. But what amazed him wasn't the height, it was the purple glow surrounding the feather, visible evidence of their combined magic. "We did it," he exclaimed. Tonks grinned, her hair shifting to a pleased pink. "That's just the beginning. Now, try to feel how I'm controlling the spell. See if you can take over." Harry concentrated again, focusing on the sensation of Tonks's magic and trying to mimic it with his own. For a moment, the feather wobbled dangerously, then stabilized as he found the right balance. "I've got it," he said, surprised. Tonks slowly lowered her wand. The feather remained aloft, now supported solely by Harry's wandless magic, though still glowing with the purple energy of their bond. "Brilliant!" Tonks beamed with pride. Most adult wizards can't do wandless levitation, let alone a 6-year-old. "It's because of the bond, isn't it?" Harry asked, carefully lowering the feather back to the blanket. "Partly," Tonks agreed. "But you've got natural talent too, Harry. The bond just helps you access it earlier than most wizards." They spent the morning practicing similar exercises, lighting small magical fires, moving objects across the clearing, even changing the color of leaves. Each time, Tonks would guide Harry through the process using their bond, then gradually let him take control. By midday, Harry was exhausted but exhilarated. He could feel his magic responding more readily, becoming an extension of his will rather than an unpredictable force. "One more thing before lunch," Tonks said, her expression turning mischievous. "Let's try something fun." She concentrated, her face scrunching up in effort. Before Harry's eyes, her nose elongated into a duck's bill, then shifted to a pig's snout, before returning to normal. "Your turn," she prompted. "Just focus on a small change, maybe your hair color. Feel how I did it through the bond." Harry closed his eyes, focusing on the memory of Tonks's transformation and the magical signature that accompanied it. He pictured his own hair turning bright blue, like the sky above them. A tingling sensation spread across his scalp. Tonks gasped. "Did it work?" Harry asked, opening his eyes. "See for yourself." Tonks conjured a small mirror. Harry stared at his reflection in amazement. His normally unruly black hair was now a vivid sky blue, standing up in the same messy spikes. "I did it," he exclaimed. "You're a natural," Tonks said, clearly impressed. "It took me years to control specific changes like that, and I was born with the ability." As they prepared lunch inside the tent, Harry's mind raced with questions. "If I can borrow your Metamorphmagus abilities, does that mean you get something from me too?" Tonks paused in slicing bread. "Good question. I've noticed a few things, better reflexes, for one. And occasionally." She hesitated. "What?" Harry prompted. "Sometimes I can sense things. Danger, mostly. Like I knew those Death Eaters were coming before the wards alerted us." She looked troubled. "And sometimes I get flashes of something else. Images, feelings that aren't mine." Harry frowned. "Like my nightmares about the green light?" "Yes, but other things too. I think." Tonks set down the knife, looking at him seriously. "I think I might be picking up on your connection to Voldemort." A chill ran down Harry's spine. "What do you mean, my connection to Voldemort?" "Your scar," Tonks explained gently. "Dumbledore believes it's not an ordinary curse scar. When Voldemort tried to kill you, something happened, a piece of his power transferred to you somehow. That's why you can speak Parseltongue." "I can speak what?" "Parseltongue. Snake language." Seeing his confusion, she added, "You didn't know?" "Dumbledore mentioned it was one of your abilities." Harry shook his head slowly. I talked to a boa constrictor at the zoo once. I thought it was just magic. It is magic, but a very specific kind. Voldemort was famous for it. Tonks squeezed his shoulder reassuringly. It doesn't make you dark, Harry. It's just an ability. And now you might have it too. Because of our bond? Maybe. I haven't had a chance to test it with any actual snakes. She smiled, trying to lighten the mood. Could be useful, though. Moody always says you can never have too many tricks up your sleeve. After lunch, they returned to practice, focusing on defensive magic. Tonks taught Harry basic shield charms, disarming spells, and how to send emergency signals. Though he was too young to use a wand properly, the bond allowed him to channel some of his magic through Tonks's wand when they were in physical contact. As the afternoon waned, Tonks decided they'd done enough for one day. You're doing brilliantly, Harry, but your magical core is still developing. We don't want to exhaust it. They sat together at the entrance to the tent, watching the sunset paint the forest in golden hues. The day's exertions had left them both tired but satisfied. Do you think they're still looking for us? Harry asked quietly. Definitely, Tonks replied, not sugarcoating the truth. But they won't find us easily. And we'll be ready if they do. Harry nodded, drawing comfort from her confidence. Through their bond, he could feel it wasn't bravado, she genuinely believed they could handle whatever came. As darkness fell, Tonks strengthened the protective enchantments around their camp and lit magical blue flames in jars around the tent. They ate a simple dinner, and Tonks pulled out a worn copy of The Tales of Beetle the Bard. Every wizard child grows up with these stories, she explained, settling beside Harry on one of the cots. My mum used to read them to me. She began with The Fountain of Fair Fortune, her voice animated as she brought the characters to life. Harry listened, entranced. No one had ever read him bedtime stories before. As he drifted towards sleep, nestled in the safety of their magical tent, Harry felt a contentment he'd never known at Privet Drive. Despite the danger, despite being on the run, he was happier than he could remember being. Through the bond, he felt Tonks's gentle affection as she tucked the blanket around him. Sleep tight, Harry, she whispered. I'll keep watch. Harry woke to the smell of pancakes. He emerged from the tent to find Tonks cooking breakfast over a small magical fire, her hair a cheerful yellow in the morning light. Special occasion? He asked, nodding toward the pancakes. Of sorts, Tonks replied with a mysterious smile. Dumbledore's coming today. Harry's eyebrows shot up. Here. How do you know? Got his response while you were sleeping. A Phoenix Patronus delivered the message. She flipped a pancake with a flourish of her wand. He'll be here around noon. Thinks he's figured out how the Death Eaters tracked us. They spent the morning reviewing the previous day's lessons. Harry found that the magical skills he'd learned came more easily now, requiring less concentration. The bond between them seemed stronger too, more stable. It's settling, Tonks explained when he mentioned it. Like a new path that becomes smoother the more it's traveled. Precisely at noon, a soft pop announced Dumbledore's arrival at the edge of their protective enchantments. Tonks lowered the wards to admit him, and the Hogwarts headmaster strode into the clearing, resplendent in midnight blue robes despite their wilderness surroundings. Ms. Tonks, Harry, he greeted them warmly. I'm pleased to see you both well. Professor, Tonks acknowledged. Any trouble finding us? None whatsoever. Your concealment charms are quite effective. Dumbledore's eyes twinkled as he observed Harry's hair, which today was a deep purple. I see you've been exploring the benefits of your bond. Harry nodded enthusiastically. Tonks has been teaching me loads of things. I can levitate objects without a wand now, and change my appearance, and, all in good time, Harry, Dumbledore interrupted gently. First, I believe we should discuss the matter of your pursuers. They moved inside the tent, where Dumbledore conjured a comfortable armchair for himself. From inside his robes, he produced a small silver object, a delicate instrument with spinning parts. "This is a trace detector," he explained. "It reveals magical monitoring spells. I used it at your home after the attack, Ms. Tonks." His expression grew serious. "As I suspected, someone had placed a modified trace on Harry." "But that's impossible," Tonks objected. "The trace is only placed on underage wizards by the Ministry, and it can't penetrate serious magical protection." "A standard trace, yes," Dumbledore agreed. "But this was something different, darker, more invasive. It was keyed specifically to Harry's magical signature." "How?" Harry asked. Dumbledore hesitated, then sighed. "I believe it was blood magic. The attackers must have obtained a sample of your blood at some point, Harry." "The Dursleys," Tonks growled, her hair flashing angry red. "They must have given someone access to him." "Perhaps," Dumbledore conceded. "Or perhaps it was obtained during an earlier attempt I was unaware of. The important thing is that this particular trace was disrupted by your bond. When you performed that extraordinary joint apparition, the trace lost its anchor." "So we're safe?" Harry asked hopefully. "For now," Dumbledore replied. "But I would not recommend returning to Ms. Tonks's house, nor to any location associated with either of you. The Death Eaters are persistent." "So we just keep running?" Tonks asked, frustration evident in her voice. "Not necessarily." Dumbledore steepled his fingers. "I've been researching your bond extensively. The anima vinculum is extraordinarily rare, but not unique in magical history. Previous instances suggest that as it matures, it will create its own form of protection, one that might shield Harry from such tracking attempts." "How long until it matures?" Tonks asked. "That varies considerably. Months, perhaps a year." Seeing their dismayed expressions, he added, "However, I have secured a safe location for you in the interim. A cottage on the coast of Cornwall, heavily warded and with a Fidelius charm in place. I would be your secret keeper." "When can we move in?" Tonks asked immediately. "Today, if you wish. I've taken the liberty of equipping it with the necessities." Dumbledore produced a small piece of parchment. "The address. Memorize it, and I'll destroy it once you've done so." Harry and Tonks read the flowing script, "Shell Cottage, Tinworth, Cornwall." As soon as they'd committed it to memory, Dumbledore incinerated the parchment with a touch of his wand. "There is one more matter," the headmaster said carefully. "Your bond has attracted significant attention within certain circles of the Ministry. Questions are being asked about Harry's whereabouts." "What kind of questions?" Tonks asked warily. "The Department of Mysteries is particularly interested. They have a division dedicated to studying rare magical phenomena. An anima vinculum between a Metamorphmagus and the boy who lived." He let the implication hang in the air. "They want to study us," Harry realized. "Like lab rats," Tonks added bitterly. "I have managed to deflect their inquiries thus far," Dumbledore assured them. "But it would be wise to keep your bond's existence as private as possible." After Dumbledore departed, Harry and Tonks packed up their temporary camp. The process took mere minutes with magic, the tent folding itself into a tiny package, all their belongings neatly shrinking to fit inside Tonks's backpack. "Ready for another adventure?" she asked, holding out her hand. Harry nodded, taking her hand firmly. Together, they disapparated. Shell Cottage appeared before them, a small, whitewashed building perched on a cliff overlooking the sea. The sound of waves crashing against rocks filled the air, and salt spray misted their faces. "It's beautiful," Harry breathed. "And secure," Tonks added, professional eyes assessing the magical protections surrounding the property. Dumbledore doesn't do things by halves. Inside, the cottage was cozy and welcoming. A fire already burned in the hearth, and the small kitchen was stocked with food. 2 bedrooms opened off the main living area, each with a comfortable-looking bed and a window facing the sea. "Home sweet home," Tonks declared, dropping her backpack on the table. At least for now. They settled into a routine at Shell Cottage. Mornings were dedicated to Harry's magical education, afternoons to physical training and exploration of the surrounding area, always within the protective boundaries, and evenings to relaxation and bonding activities. Moody visited twice a week to continue Tonks's Auror training and to teach Harry basic defense techniques. Despite his gruff manner, the old Auror seemed genuinely impressed by Harry's progress. "The boy's got good instincts," he growled to Tonks after one particularly successful lesson. "Better than half the recruits I get." Their bond continued to develop in fascinating ways. Harry's Metamorphmagus abilities grew stronger, though still limited compared to Tonks's natural talent. He could now reliably change his hair and eye color, alter his facial features slightly, and even modify his height by an inch or two. Tonks, meanwhile, discovered she could sense magical threats with uncanny accuracy, a skill Harry had apparently possessed without realizing it. She also found that her spells were notably more powerful when Harry was nearby, as if his magical core was somehow amplifying her own. Most intriguing of all was their developing ability to communicate without words. It began as vague impressions, emotions, general intent, but gradually evolved into something more coherent. They first realized the extent of this ability during one of Moody's surprise, constant vigilance, drills. The ex-Auror had disillusioned himself and was attempting to ambush them during their morning walk along the cliffs. Harry suddenly stopped, head tilting slightly. Tonks felt a distinct impression through their bond, not words exactly, but a clear message, "Behind the large rock, right side." Without questioning, Tonks spun and fired a stunning spell precisely where indicated. There was a grunt of surprise as the spell connected, and Moody's disillusioned form became visible as he toppled backward. "Impressive," he acknowledged after Tonks revived him. "How did you know?" Tonks and Harry exchanged glances. "We just did," Tonks replied. After Moody left, they practiced this new aspect of their bond deliberately. Sitting across from each other at the kitchen table, they took turns sending images, sensations, and eventually simple phrases. "Blue sky," Harry projected, focusing on the bond. Tonks smiled. "Blue sky," she confirmed aloud. "My turn." She concentrated on the image of a seagull diving for fish. Harry's eyes widened. "I saw it. The bird catching a fish." By the end of their first month at Shell Cottage, they could maintain a rudimentary nonverbal conversation through the bond, though it required considerable concentration and worked best when they were in physical contact. "This could be dead useful in a tight spot," Tonks remarked. "Especially if we're ever separated." The thought of separation sent a ripple of anxiety through their bond. Though neither mentioned it aloud, they had both noticed that distance affected them physically now. Even being in separate rooms of the small cottage for too long caused a persistent discomfort, a dull headache that grew steadily worse until they reunited. One stormy afternoon, as rain lashed against the windows of the cottage, Tonks decided it was time for Harry to learn about his family history. She set a photo album on the table between them, a gift from Dumbledore during his last visit. "These are your parents," she said softly, opening to the first page. Harry stared transfixed at the moving photograph of James and Lily Potter on their wedding day. They waved up at him, young and radiant with happiness. "You look just like your dad," Tonks observed. "Except for your eyes." "You have my mother's eyes," Harry finished, unable to tear his gaze from Lily's bright green eyes, so identical to his own. They spent hours poring over the album, Tonks sharing what little she knew about each person pictured. Her own parents had known the Potters peripherally through the Order of the Phoenix, an organization Dumbledore had formed to fight Voldemort. "That's Sirius Black," she explained, pointing to a handsome young man with James Potter's arms slung around his shoulders. "He's my cousin, actually, my mum's side of the family. He was your dad's best friend." "Where is he now?" Harry asked eagerly. "Could we meet him?" A shadow crossed Tonks's face. "He's in Azkaban, wizard prison." He was accused of betraying your parents to Voldemort. Harry recoiled in shock. What? No. I don't know all the details, Tonks said carefully. It happened when I was just a kid. But my mum never believed it. She says Sirius would have died before betraying James. Harry stared down at the photograph, at the way Sirius looked at his father with obvious brotherly affection. I don't believe it either, he said firmly. Tonks squeezed his shoulder. Maybe someday we'll learn the truth. The photo album became one of Harry's most treasured possessions. He often paged through it before bed, memorizing the faces of his parents and their friends, creating a mental family for himself that extended beyond his cupboard years. As autumn turned to winter, the Cornish coast became wild and beautiful in a different way. Massive storms rolled in from the Atlantic, waves crashing against the cliffs with thunderous force. Inside Shell Cottage, magical fires kept them warm as they continued their studies and training. Dumbledore visited periodically, bringing news from the wizarding world and checking on their progress. During one such visit in early December, he watched with particular interest as Harry demonstrated his growing Metamorphmagus abilities. Fascinating, the headmaster murmured as Harry's hair cycled through rainbow colors. And Ms. Tonks, you've experienced improvements in your defensive capabilities? Tonks nodded. My shield charms are nearly twice as strong as before. And I can sense magical signatures at a much greater distance. As I suspected. Dumbledore stroked his beard thoughtfully. Your bond is developing along complementary lines, enhancing your natural strengths and compensating for weaknesses. What about Harry's connection to Voldemort? Tonks asked quietly, when Harry had moved out of earshot to make tea. I'm still getting impressions through the bond. Dumbledore's expression turned grave. That is concerning, though not unexpected. The link between Harry and Voldemort exists on a fundamental magical level. Your bond with Harry naturally intersects with it. Is it dangerous? Potentially, Dumbledore admitted. But it may also prove advantageous. Your presence in Harry's mind, so to speak, might help shield him from Voldemort's influence as he grows older. After Dumbledore left, Tonks found Harry standing at his bedroom window, gazing out at the stormy sea. Through their bond, she sensed his troubled thoughts. Canute for your thoughts, she asked lightly, joining him at the window. Just thinking about everything Dumbledore said. About our bond, about Voldemort. Harry turned to face her, his expression serious beyond his years. He's not really gone, is he? Voldemort. Tonks hesitated, then decided on honesty. Dumbledore doesn't think so. He believes Voldemort was weakened, not destroyed. That he's out there somewhere, waiting to regain his power. And then he'll come after me again. Yes, Tonks acknowledged. But you won't face him alone, Harry. You'll never face anything alone again. Harry smiled slightly. Because of our bond. Because of our bond, Tonks agreed. And because I'm rather fond of you, magical connection or not. The admission sent a warm pulse through their bond, affection, protection, belonging. Feelings that neither had expected when they'd first been thrust together by circumstance and magic. That night, Harry had another nightmare about green light and high-pitched laughter. But this time, when he woke gasping and terrified, he found Tonks already at his bedside, having felt his distress through their bond. It's okay, she soothed, sitting beside him. I'm here. I saw him, Harry whispered. Clearer than before. He was talking to someone, making plans. Voldemort? Tonks asked sharply. Harry nodded, his small face pale in the moonlight. He was angry. Something went wrong. Someone failed him. Tonks pulled him into a tight hug. It was just a dream. But they both knew it wasn't. Through their bond, they shared the certainty that Harry had glimpsed something real, that somewhere, the dark wizard who had tried to kill him was indeed making plans. The next morning, Tonks sent an urgent message to Dumbledore, detailing Harry's dream. The headmaster's response came swiftly, a request that Harry record any future dreams in a journal, no matter how fragmented or confusing they might seem. He thinks they're important. Harry asked as Tonks handed him a small leather-bound notebook. He thinks they might give us information, Tonks replied. Knowledge is power, Harry, especially against someone like Voldemort. As winter deepened, they remained vigilant but continued their daily routine. Harry's magical education progressed rapidly, and Tonks found her Auror skills sharpening through the constant practice of teaching and protecting her young ward. Their bond matured too, becoming an integral part of them rather than an external force. They learned to modulate it, opening the connection fully when combining their magic for powerful spells, partially closing it for privacy during personal moments. On Christmas morning, Harry woke to find the cottage transformed. Magical icicles hung from the ceiling, glowing softly in different colors. A small tree stood in the corner, decorated with tiny, fluttering golden birds and miniature broomsticks that occasionally zoomed around the branches. "Happy Christmas, Harry!" Tonks called from the kitchen, where the smell of baking cinnamon rolls filled the air. "Did you do all this?" Harry asked, amazed. "Stayed up half the night," Tonks confirmed, her hair a festive red and green. "Worth it to see your face, though." After breakfast, they exchanged gifts. Tonks had somehow managed to acquire a child-sized broomstick for Harry, not a toy, but a real flying broom designed for young wizards. "It's only charmed to go about 10 feet high," she explained as Harry unwrapped it with reverent hands. "But it's a proper broom. Your dad was a brilliant flyer, from what I've heard." "It's amazing," Harry breathed, running his fingers along the polished handle. "Thank you." His gift to Tonks was more modest, a hand-drawn card and a shell necklace he'd made from treasures collected on the beach. But her delight radiated through their bond, genuine and touching. "Best Christmas present ever," she declared, immediately putting on the necklace. "I'll wear it for good luck." They spent the day testing out Harry's new broom within the protective boundaries of their property, Tonks giving him flying lessons based on her own Hogwarts experiences. To no one's surprise, Harry was a natural, quickly mastering the basic controls and even attempting small dives and turns by afternoon. As darkness fell, they returned to the cottage for a feast prepared by Tonks, with considerable help from magic, as her cooking skills were still developing. Halfway through dinner, a soft chime indicated someone at the boundary of their protective wards. Tonks was immediately alert, wand drawn. Through their bond, Harry felt her shift to combat readiness. "Stay here," she instructed, moving cautiously to the window. A moment later, she relaxed visibly. "It's Dumbledore. And, my parents?" Indeed, the visitors were Albus Dumbledore, accompanied by a tall, fair-haired man and a woman with the same heart-shaped face as Tonks, though her hair was a natural brown rather than Metamorphmagus pink. "Surprise!" Andromeda, Tonks exclaimed, embracing her daughter as soon as they were admitted to the cottage. Dumbledore thought it would be safe for a brief visit. Ted Tonks, a jovial-looking man with kind eyes, extended his hand to Harry. "So you're the young man who's been keeping our Dora on her toes. Pleased to meet you, Harry." The evening transformed into a proper Christmas celebration. Ted and Andromeda had brought additional gifts, a Christmas pudding, and stories about Tonks's childhood that made her hair cycle through embarrassed colors while Harry laughed. It was the first real family Christmas Harry had ever experienced. Through the bond, Tonks felt his happiness, his sense of finally belonging, and she silently vowed to ensure he would never lack for family again. Later, as Harry dozed by the fire, the adults spoke in low voices. "How are you really managing, Dora?" Andromeda asked her daughter. "This is an enormous responsibility for someone your age." "It's not what I expected," Tonks admitted. "But it feels right, Mom. The bond, it's hard to explain, but Harry and we're connected now. His well-being is my well-being." "You've always had a big heart," Ted said fondly. "Even as a little girl, always bringing home strays and lost things." "Harry's not a stray," Tonks objected, perhaps too sharply. "Of course not, dear," Andromeda soothed. Your father just meant you've always been a protector. Dumbledore, who had been quietly observing the family interaction, spoke up. Ms. Tonks has proven herself exceptionally capable in this unexpected role. The bond between her and Harry is developing beautifully, far better than I dared hope. After Ted and Andromeda departed, with promises to visit again when security allowed, Dumbledore remained behind. His expression turned serious as he removed a small package from his robes. A late Christmas gift for Harry, he explained. Though perhaps gift is not quite the right word. It is, rather, a return of something that rightfully belongs to him. Tonks accepted the package curiously. What is it? Your father's invisibility cloak, Dumbledore replied, nodding toward the sleeping Harry. James entrusted it to me shortly before he died. I believe it's time for Harry to have it. It may prove useful in the years to come. After Dumbledore left, Tonks gently woke Harry to show him the cloak. His wonder as he disappeared beneath the silvery fabric brought a smile to her face. This was my dad's, he asked, reappearing with his head floating mysteriously above an invisible body. Apparently it's been in your family for generations, Tonks explained. Invisibility cloaks are rare, and most lose their power over time. But this one seems special. Harry wrapped the cloak around his shoulders reverently. Another piece of them, he said softly. First the photos, now this. That night, as a new snowstorm battered the cottage, Tonks found herself unable to sleep. Something about Dumbledore's manner during his visit had troubled her, a certain guardedness when discussing Harry's future, a careful calculation in his blue eyes. She slipped out of bed and moved to the small desk in the corner of her room, where she kept her Auror training notes and personal journal. Pulling out a fresh piece of parchment, she began listing everything she knew about Harry's situation, everything Dumbledore had told them, and, more importantly, what he hadn't told them. Why was Voldemort so fixated on Harry specifically? What was the true nature of the connection between them? Why had Dumbledore left Harry with those awful muggles for so long, despite clear signs of neglect? The questions multiplied, and the answers remained elusive. Tonks chewed on her quill, a habit from her Hogwarts days. Through their bond, she could sense Harry sleeping peacefully in the next room, his dreams for once undisturbed by Voldemort's shadow. I'll protect you, she whispered to the sleeping presence in her mind. Whatever Dumbledore's planning, whatever Voldemort wants, they'll have to go through me first. January brought bitter cold to the Cornish coast. Magical fires kept Shell Cottage warm, but venturing outside required warming charms and thick cloaks. Despite the weather, Harry insisted on daily flying practice on his new broom, his determination to master flight evident in his flushed cheeks and bright eyes when he returned indoors. Moody continued his twice-weekly visits, now focusing on teaching Harry basic wandless defensive magic and expanding Tonks's arsenal of protection spells. The grizzled ex-Auror seemed increasingly concerned about security, adding his own layers of detection wards to the cottage's already formidable protections. Something's brewing, he growled during one visit, his magical eye swiveling continuously. Movement among the old Death Eater circles. People who should be keeping their heads down are suddenly having meetings. Related to the attack on us? Tonks asked, keeping her voice low so Harry wouldn't overhear from where he was practicing shield charms. Possibly. Moody took a swig from his hip flask. Or possibly something bigger. Either way, constant vigilance. The shout made both Tonks and Harry jump, despite being accustomed to Moody's outbursts. January gave way to February, and the winter storms gradually lessened. On a rare, clear day, Tonks decided they both needed a break from the cottage. Field trip, she announced at breakfast. We're going to Diagon Alley. Harry's eyes widened. Is that safe? With proper precautions, Tonks replied, her training asserting itself. You'll need to change your appearance, hair color at minimum, and hide that scar. I'll be disguised too. We'll use the flue directly to the leaky cauldron, spend no more than 2 hours, and return the same way. The prospect of visiting the wizard's shopping street she told him about filled Harry with excitement that bubbled through their bond. After breakfast, they both prepared their disguises. Harry turned his hair a sandy brown and, with concentration, managed to make his scar temporarily vanish. Tonks transformed into a middle-aged witch with steel-gray hair and a stern expression. "Perfect," she approved, surveying Harry's altered appearance. "Remember, your name is Henry Thompson, my nephew. We're shopping for your birthday present." "But my birthday's not until July," Harry pointed out. "Details, Tonks winked. "Ready?" Minutes later, they stepped out of the flue into the leaky cauldron. Harry coughed, brushing soot from his clothes as he looked around curiously at the dimly lit wizard pub. A few patrons glanced their way, but quickly returned to their drinks and conversations. "Come along, Henry," Tonks said in a voice pitched higher than her usual tone. "We have shopping to do." She led him through to the back, where she tapped a precise pattern on the brick wall with her wand. Harry watched in amazement as the bricks rearranged themselves, forming an archway to a bustling, colorful street beyond. "Welcome to Diagon Alley," Tonks said, unable to keep the smile from her disguised face as she watched Harry's reaction. It was everything she had described and more. Shops selling cauldrons, telescopes, strange silver instruments, robes, wands, and creatures Harry couldn't identify lined the winding cobblestone street. Witches and wizards in a variety of colorful robes hurried about their business, some levitating packages, others engaged in animated discussions about magical matters. Their first stop was Flourish and Blots, where Tonks purchased several books for Harry's continuing education, a beginner's guide to transfiguration, magical drafts and potions, and a children's book called The Young Wizard's Guide to Magical Creatures. Next, they visited the apothecary, where Tonks stocked up on basic potion ingredients. "Time you learn some practical brewing," she explained as the shopkeeper wrapped their purchases. "Nothing dangerous, just simple stuff, healing potions, antidotes to common poisons, that sort of thing." Harry was fascinated by everything, the self-stirring cauldrons, the floating measuring scales, even the strange smells that permeated the shop. Through their bond, Tonks felt his wonder and excitement, so pure and untainted that it made her own disguised features soften with affection. As they made their way toward quality Quidditch supplies, a promised treat to look at racing brooms, Harry suddenly froze. Through their bond, Tonks felt a jolt of recognition, followed by wariness. "What is it?" she asked quietly, hand moving to her concealed wand. Harry nodded subtly toward a tall, thin man with long white blonde hair who was emerging from Knockturn Alley, a shadowy side street Tonks had specifically warned him to avoid. "I've seen him before," Harry whispered. "In my dream." He was talking to him. Tonks didn't need clarification on who him was. She casually steered Harry into the shadow of a nearby shop front, observing the blonde man without appearing to stare. "Lucius Malfoy," she murmured. "Old Death Eater family. Claimed he was under the Imperius curse after Voldemort fell. Bought his way out of trouble." Malfoy paused to speak with a hunched figure at the entrance to Knockturn Alley. Though they couldn't hear the conversation, his imperious manner was evident in his stance and gestures. "Let's move along," Tonks suggested, guiding Harry away. "Best not to linger." But as they turned toward quality Quidditch supplies, they nearly collided with another shopper, a severe-looking wizard in immaculate black robes, his sallow face framed by curtains of greasy black hair. "Watch where you're going," he snapped irritably. "Sorry, sir," Tonks apologized, keeping her disguised voice steady despite her recognition of Severus Snape, Hogwarts potions master and former Death Eater. Snape's dark eyes swept over them dismissively, but then paused on Harry. Something like recognition flickered in his expression. "Come along, Henry," Tonks said quickly, pulling Harry away before Snape could speak. "Who was that?" Harry asked once they were safely inside the Quidditch shop. "Severus Snape. Teaches potions at Hogwarts." Tonks kept her voice neutral, but her concern rippled through their bond. "Did you recognize him too?" Harry shook his head. No, but he seemed to recognize me, even with my disguise. This troubled Tonks deeply. If Snape could see through their disguises, their security might be more compromised than they realized. I think we should head back, she decided. We've been here long enough. Harry nodded, disappointed but understanding the precaution. As they made their way back toward the leaky cauldron, however, a commotion erupted further down the street. Shouts and screams rose from the crowd near Gringotts Bank. Stay close, Tonks ordered, her aura instincts kicking in as she drew her wand. The source of the disturbance soon became apparent. A young wizard was battling what appeared to be animated chains that had sprung from a package he'd been carrying. The metallic links writhed like snakes, wrapping around his arms and legs while he desperately fired spells to free himself. Cursed object, Tonks muttered. Everyone back, she called more loudly, pushing through the gathering crowd. Or business. Despite her disguise, her authoritative tone made people move aside. Harry stuck close behind her, wide-eyed but composed. The young wizard was now suspended several feet off the ground, the chains constricting around his chest. His face had turned an alarming shade of purple. Finite incantatem. Tonks shouted, aiming her wand at the chains. The spell had no effect. She tried several more counter-curses in rapid succession, but the chains only tightened further. The young man's struggles were weakening. He's dying, Harry said urgently, feeling the victim's fading life force through some extension of their bond. Acting on instinct, he grabbed Tonks's free hand. Immediately, the purple energy of their bond surged between them. Tonks felt Harry's magic flowing into her, raw and powerful. Subsisto maleficium, she cried, channeling their combined power through her wand. A blast of purple light erupted from the tip, striking the chains. For a moment, nothing happened, then the metal links froze, turned brittle, and shattered into dust. The young wizard collapsed to the ground, gasping for air. The crowd erupted in murmurs and exclamations. Several people pointed at the purple light still faintly visible between Harry and Tonks's joined hands. Time to go, Tonks whispered urgently. Now. They pushed through the crowd as other, official auras began operating to the scene. Tonks kept her head down, maintaining her disguise while hurrying Harry toward the leaky cauldron. They were nearly there when a firm hand clasped Tonks's shoulder. A word, if you please, said a calm, measured voice. They turned to find themselves facing a tall black wizard in immaculate aura robes. Kingsley Shacklebolt, one of the senior aurors whom Tonks had trained under before her assignment to Harry. Sir, Tonks acknowledged, maintaining her disguise but knowing it was pointless with Kingsley, who had exceptional skills at seeing through deceptions. That was impressive spell work back there, Kingsley said mildly. Particularly the unusual color of your magic. Tonks hesitated, sensing both danger and opportunity. Kingsley was one of the few aurors she truly trusted, a member of Dumbledore's inner circle. Perhaps we could discuss it somewhere more private, she suggested. Kingsley nodded, understanding the implied caution. My office at the ministry would be suitable. Unless you prefer an alternative location. Actually, yes, Tonks decided. She scribbled something on a scrap of parchment and handed it to Kingsley. 15 minutes. The address she'd written wasn't Shell Cottage, but a safe house Moody had established as an emergency meeting point. Kingsley read it, nodded once, and disappeared into the crowd. Can we trust him? Harry asked as they continued toward the leaky cauldron. If we can't trust Kingsley, we're in bigger trouble than I thought, Tonks replied grimly. But we'll be careful nonetheless. They fled first back to Shell Cottage to collect essential items in case they needed to relocate, then to the safe house, a nondescript flat above a Muggle bookshop in a quiet London neighborhood. Kingsley was already waiting when they arrived, having disabled the flat's considerable defenses with apparent ease. Moody's work, he commented as they entered. Effective, but I recognize the signature. Tonks dropped her disguise, returning to her preferred appearance with pink hair. After a moment's hesitation, Harry did the same, his hair darkening to its natural black and his scar reappearing on his forehead. Kingsley's eyes widened slightly at the confirmation of Harry's identity, but he remained composed. I suspected as much. The Ministry has been in an uproar since you disappeared from your relatives, Harry. The Ministry doesn't need to know where he is, Tonks said firmly. I agree, Kingsley surprised them by saying. Particularly after what I witnessed today. That was no ordinary magic. Tonks exchanged a glance with Harry, a silent conversation passing through their bond. After a moment, she nodded. We're bonded, she explained simply. An anima vinculum. Kingsley's normally impassive expression gave way to genuine shock. That's extremely rare. And with your Metamorphmagus abilities. He looked between them with new understanding. That explains the purple magical signature. Dumbledore knows, Tonks added. He's been helping us understand it. But we've been keeping it quiet because certain elements at the Ministry would be too interested, Kingsley finished. The Department of Mysteries in particular. Exactly. Kingsley considered this information, his expression thoughtful. What happened in Diagon Alley today won't stay quiet. Too many witnesses saw your combined magic. Questions will be asked. We know, Tonks sighed. That's why we need to know where you stand. With Dumbledore, Kingsley said without hesitation. And with protecting Harry from those who would exploit him, inside the Ministry or out. Harry, who had been quietly observing, finally spoke up. The man with the chains, will he be okay? Kingsley's stern features softened slightly. Thanks to your intervention, yes. The curse would have killed him within minutes if you hadn't broken it. He studied Harry with new respect. That was extremely advanced magic for someone your age. It was both of us, Harry said, gesturing between himself and Tonks. The bond makes our magic stronger when we work together. So I saw. Kingsley turned back to Tonks. The official report will state that an unidentified witch countered the curse using conventional means. No mention of unusual magical signatures or a child being present. Thank you, Tonks said sincerely. Don't thank me yet. Kingsley's expression turned grave. That cursed object didn't appear by accident. Initial examination suggests it was meant to create exactly the kind of public disturbance it did, almost as if someone was hoping to draw attention. A trap? Tonks asked sharply. Possibly. Or a test. Either way, I would recommend extreme caution moving forward. Kingsley stood, preparing to leave. I'll keep you informed of any developments at the Ministry. And Tonks, he paused at the door, Moody asked me to tell you, the hound is sniffing. Tonks paled visibly at the code phrase. Are you certain? Kingsley nodded solemnly. Absolutely. Be careful. After he departed, Harry turned to Tonks questioningly. What does that mean? About the hound? Tonks ran a hand through her pink hair, which had darkened with concern. It's Moody's code for Fenrir Greyback, a werewolf who worked with Voldemort. One of the most vicious dark creatures alive. And he's looking for us? For you, specifically. Tonks began pacing the small flat. This complicates things. Greyback is relentless, and he has abilities that can circumvent many magical protections, enhanced senses, instinctive tracking magic. What do we do? Tonks stopped pacing, her decision made. We move again. Not back to Shell Cottage, somewhere new. Somewhere with natural protections against creatures like Greyback. They spent the night at the safe house, taking turns keeping watch. In the morning, Tonks sent messages to both Dumbledore and Moody, informing them of the situation and their decision to relocate. Dumbledore's response came first, a Phoenix Patronus that spoke with his calm voice, proceed to Hawthorne Hollow. The protections are renewed. Send word when you arrive. Where's Hawthorne Hollow? Harry asked as they packed their few belongings. An old order of the Phoenix safe house, Tonks explained. Built on a convergence of ley lines, natural magical currents in the earth. It specifically warded against dark creatures. They traveled by a circuitous route, multiple apparition jumps to random locations, a brief journey on the night bus, even a stretch by Muggle train, all to confuse any magical tracking. By late afternoon, they arrived at their destination, a small stone cottage nestled in a thick grove of hawthorn trees, their twisted branches forming a natural barrier around the property. Despite the winter season, the trees were in full bloom, white blossoms creating a canopy overhead. The trees are part of the protection, Tonks explained as they approached. Hawthorn has natural properties against dark magic, especially creatures like werewolves. Inside, the cottage was dusty but well-equipped. Ancient runes were carved into the stone walls, glowing faintly with dormant power. "Home sweet home," Tonks declared with forced cheerfulness. Again. They spent the remainder of the day setting up the cottage, activating the dormant protection runes, and establishing a new security perimeter. By nightfall, they were exhausted but satisfied with their preparations. "Do you think we're safe here?" Harry asked as they sat before the fire, eating a simple dinner of soup and bread. "Safer than most places," Tonks replied honestly. "The natural magic of this location is powerful, and Dumbledore himself renewed the wards. But we'll remain vigilant." Through their bond, she felt Harry's mixture of fatigue, anxiety, and determination. Despite everything, the constant moving, the danger, the burden of their unique bond, he remained remarkably resilient. "You're handling this better than most grown wizards would," she observed. Harry shrugged. "I'm used to things being unpredictable, I guess. At least now I understand why." The simple statement revealed so much about his upbringing that Tonks felt a renewed surge of protectiveness. Their bond hummed with shared emotion, her fierce devotion and his quiet trust forming a circle of mutual support. "We should practice combining our magic more deliberately," Tonks suggested, moving to sit cross-legged on the hearth rug. "What we did in Diagon Alley was mostly instinctive. If we could control it." Harry nodded eagerly, joining her on the rug. "How do we start?" "Like this." Tonks held out both hands, palms up. "Put your hands on mine and close your eyes. Feel the bond between us, but instead of just letting the magic flow naturally, try to direct it, like aiming a wand." Harry placed his smaller hands on hers and closed his eyes. The now familiar purple glow appeared around their joined hands, but this time, they both concentrated on controlling it, shaping it. The light condensed, forming a hovering sphere between them. As they focused, it began to change shape, first a cube, then a pyramid, then a spiraling helix. "Brilliant," Tonks breathed, opening her eyes to observe their creation. "Now, let's try something more practical. Focus on creating a shield, picture it surrounding us both." Their combined concentration shifted, and the purple energy expanded rapidly, forming a translucent dome that encompassed them and a good portion of the room. It hummed with power, far stronger than any shield charm Tonks could produce alone. "Hold it," she instructed, carefully removing one hand from Harry's and picking up her wand. "Stupefy," she cast at the shield. The red spell struck the purple barrier and dissipated harmlessly. "Now something stronger, Reducto." The more powerful curse hit the shield with a resonant gong, but still couldn't penetrate. "One more test," Tonks said, impressed but wanting to push the limits. "Bombarda Maxima." The explosive spell slammed into their shield with tremendous force. The purple barrier flickered but held, though both Tonks and Harry felt the strain through their bond. "Enough," Tonks decided, seeing Harry's face grow pale with effort. As they released the magic, the shield dissolved into sparkling motes of light that drifted around them before fading. "That was incredible," Harry said, breathless but exhilarated. "It felt different from before, more controlled." "Exactly," Tonks nodded. "With practice, we could maintain that shield even while casting offensive spells. It would make us nearly untouchable in a duel." The implications of their growing power weren't lost on either of them. Their bond was creating magical possibilities that defied conventional limits, possibilities that made them both valuable and vulnerable. That night, Harry had another dream about Voldemort, clearer than any before. When he woke, shaking and drenched in cold sweat, he immediately wrote down everything he could remember in the journal Dumbledore had given him. "He's getting stronger," he told Tonks over breakfast, pushing the journal toward her. "And he knows something happened to me, something that changed the connection between us." Tonks read Harry's account with growing concern. The dream described Voldemort, still in some weakened, partial form, raging at his followers about a disruption in his link to the boy, demanding that they find Harry before the bond solidifies further. "He knows about us," she realized aloud. "Not the details, perhaps, but he sensed the change in your magical signature." "Is that why all these people are hunting us?" Harry asked. "Death Eaters, the Ministry, this werewolf, all because of our bond?" "Partly," Tonks admitted. "But mostly because of who you are, Harry. The boy who lived, the only person ever to survive the killing curse. That made you important even before our bond." Harry frowned, absently running a finger over his scar. "I didn't ask for any of this." "No, you didn't," Tonks agreed softly. "But here we are nonetheless." After sending Harry's dream account to Dumbledore via their secure communication method, they resumed their training routine, now with increased focus on their combined magical abilities. The days at Hawthorne Hollow fell into a pattern similar to their time at Shell Cottage, but with a greater emphasis on defensive magic and stealth techniques. Moody's visits became more frequent, and he often brought news of Death Eater movements or Ministry politics that might affect them. "They're definitely organizing," he reported during one such visit in late March. "Former Death Eaters meeting in secret, recruiting. Something's coming." "But Voldemort himself?" Tonks pressed. Moody's magical eye swiveled toward Harry, who was practicing silent casting across the room. "No confirmed sightings. But there are rumors from Albania, dark magic, murdered locals, animals behaving strangely." "Albania," Tonks repeated thoughtfully. "That's where he was rumored to have fled after his fall." "Aye. And now something's stirring there again." Moody took a swig from his flask. "Dumbledore's concerned enough that he sent someone to investigate." "Who?" "Can't say. Too risky." Moody's paranoia was legendary but rarely unfounded. "How's the boys' training coming along?" Tonks glanced at Harry with pride. "Extraordinarily well. He's mastered spells that most first-years at Hogwarts struggle with, and his control over the Metamorphmagus abilities he's gained through our bond improves daily." Moody nodded approvingly. "Good. He'll need every advantage in the times ahead." As spring arrived, bringing new growth to the hawthorn grove surrounding their cottage, Harry celebrated 7 months since the formation of their bond. His physical appearance had changed subtly during this time. He'd grown taller, healthier, his formerly skinny frame filling out with proper nutrition and regular exercise. More significantly, his magical abilities had developed far beyond what would be expected for a child his age. He could now perform most basic spells wandlessly, change his appearance almost as readily as Tonks, and maintain their combined shield for increasingly longer periods. Tonks had changed too. Her natural clumsiness was less pronounced, tempered by some of Harry's innate grace and reflexes. Her Metamorphmagus transformations had expanded to include subtle alterations to her magical signature, a useful skill for evading detection. And she found herself occasionally understanding snippets of Parseltongue when Harry practiced with the garden snakes that lived under the cottage steps. The bond between them had matured into something both more powerful and more natural. What had once felt like an external force now seemed an integral part of them, a shared consciousness that enhanced rather than invaded their individual identities. On a warm April afternoon, as Harry practiced flying maneuvers on his broom over the protected clearing behind the cottage, Tonks received an unexpected Patronus message from Dumbledore, "Coming tonight. Significant developments. Prepare Harry." The cryptic message left her uneasy. Prepare Harry for what, exactly? When Harry landed, flushed and windswept from flying, she shared the message with him. "What do you think it means?" he asked, instinctively reaching for their bond to gauge her emotions. "I'm not sure," Tonks admitted. "But I think we should be ready for anything. Let's review our emergency protocols and practice our combined shield once more." Dumbledore arrived precisely at sunset, appearing at the edge of the hawthorn grove with a soft pop of apparition. He looked more tired than usual, the lines on his ancient face deeper, his movements less spry. "Good evening," he greeted them as they admitted him through the wards. "Thank you for your vigilance." Inside the cottage, he settled into a chair by the fire, accepting a cup of tea from Tonks with a grateful nod. "I'm afraid I bring concerning news," he began without preamble. "Our agent in Albania has confirmed that Voldemort, in some reduced form, has indeed been active there. More troublingly, he appears to have departed recently, possibly returning to Britain." Harry and Tonks exchanged alarmed glances, their bond humming with shared apprehension. "There's more," Dumbledore continued. "Certain artifacts associated with Voldemort have been disturbed. Items I've been monitoring for signs of his possible return." "What kind of artifacts?" Tonks asked. Dumbledore hesitated, his blue eyes flickering briefly toward Harry. "Objects containing powerful dark magic. The details are not suitable for young ears." Harry bristled at this. "I'm not a baby. If Voldemort's coming back, I need to know everything." Through their bond, Tonks felt his frustration, not merely childish petulance, but a deeper need to understand the threat against him. "Harry's right," she said firmly. "Our bond means we share everything: knowledge, power, danger. Keeping information from him is keeping it from me as well." Dumbledore studied them both for a long moment, his expression inscrutable. Finally, he sighed. "Very well. But I must ask that what I'm about to share remains strictly between us." He leaned forward, his voice dropping. "I believe Voldemort created Horcruxes, multiple Horcruxes, to ensure his immortality." "Horcruxes?" Harry asked, unfamiliar with the term. The revulsion that flashed across Dumbledore's usually composed features was answer enough that this was dark magic of the worst kind. "A Horcrux is an object in which a dark wizard has hidden a fragment of their soul," the headmaster explained gravely. "While it exists, they cannot truly die, even if their body is destroyed." "That's how he survived the killing curse rebounding?" Tonks asked, horrified. "Precisely. His body was destroyed, but the portion of his soul anchored to this world by his Horcruxes remained." "How many did he make?" Harry asked, his young face solemn beyond his years. "That is what I've been trying to determine," Dumbledore replied. "At least 3, I believe, possibly more. One appears to have been a diary, which recently went missing from the Malfoy estate. Another, a ring belonging to Voldemort's maternal family, has also disappeared from its hiding place. And the third?" Dumbledore's eyes moved to Harry's scar, a fleeting glance that Tonks caught with a sudden chill of understanding. "The third remains secure for now," Dumbledore said evasively. Tonks felt Harry's confusion through their bond, but also his determination to understand. "So he's collecting these soul pieces to become whole again?" "That is one possibility," Dumbledore acknowledged. "Or he may be moving them to more secure locations, sensing that I'm hunting them." "What does this mean for us?" Tonks asked, automatically moving closer to Harry. "It means that our timeline may have accelerated," Dumbledore said grimly. "I had hoped for more years to prepare, for Harry to reach maturity before confronting these realities. But events are moving more quickly than anticipated." "What do you want us to do?" Harry asked directly. "Continue your training, more intensively than ever." "And?" Dumbledore hesitated. "I believe it may be time to consider the next phase of our strategy." "Which is?" Tonks prompted, her protective instincts flaring. "Hogwarts," Dumbledore said simply. "I believe Harry should attend as planned when he turns 11. Tonks stared at him incredulously. "You can't be serious." With everything that's happening? With Voldemort possibly returning? You want to send Harry into a castle full of Death Eater's children? I want him protected by the most powerful magical defenses in Britain, surrounded by the country's finest magical minds, and developing the social connections he will need for the challenges ahead, Dumbledore corrected mildly. Hogwarts is not merely a school, Nymphadora. It is a fortress, a community, and a place where Harry can grow into his potential. And what about our bond? Harry asked quietly. We can't be separated. You won't be, Dumbledore assured him. Ms. Tonks will come to Hogwarts as well, as a special security consultant and assistant professor of defense against the dark arts. The solution was so unexpected that Tonks's hair cycled rapidly through colors before settling on a thoughtful blue. That might actually work, she admitted reluctantly. It addresses multiple concerns, Dumbledore pointed out. It keeps you together, provides Harry with normal educational experiences, maintains your protection, and allows Ms. Tonks to continue her professional development. But we have over a year before Harry turns 11, Tonks noted. What do we do until then? Prepare, Dumbledore said simply. Train. And remain vigilant. After the headmaster departed, Tonks and Harry sat in silence for some time, processing the revelations and implications. Horcruxes, Tonks finally said, the word bitter on her tongue. I've heard rumors about them in Auror training, darkest of dark magic. It makes sense, in a terrible way. Harry nodded absently, lost in thought. Through their bond, Tonks felt his mind working, connecting pieces. Dumbledore didn't tell us everything, he said finally. When he mentioned the third Horcrux, he looked at my scar. Tonks had noticed the same thing, but hearing Harry articulate it sent ice through her veins. That doesn't mean, yes, it does, Harry interrupted, his young face grave. There's a reason I can speak to snakes. There's a reason I have these dreams. There's a piece of Voldemort in me, isn't there? The question hung in the air between them, terrible in its implication. Tonks wanted to deny it immediately, but their bond wouldn't allow such dishonesty between them. I don't know, she admitted. But if there is, we'll find a way to remove it without harming you. I promise, Harry. The determination in her voice was absolute, leaving no room for doubt. Through their bond, Harry felt her fierce protectiveness, her unwavering commitment to his well-being. I believe you, he said simply. That night, as a spring storm battered the cottage, they practiced their combined magic with renewed intensity. The purple shield they conjured was stronger than ever, fueled by their shared resolve to face whatever darkness lay ahead, together. In the months that followed, their training took on a new urgency. Moody brought additional defensive texts and artifacts for them to study. Dumbledore arranged for other Order members to visit periodically, specialists in various magical disciplines who could expand their knowledge and skills. Kingsley Shacklebolt taught them advanced concealment and anti-tracking spells. Professor McGonagall instructed Harry in the fundamentals of transfiguration, surprised and impressed by his natural aptitude. A young curse-breaker named Bill Weasley spent a week teaching them about magical traps and how to disable them. Through it all, their bond continued to develop in fascinating ways. Their ability to communicate mentally improved to the point where they could exchange complete thoughts without speaking, though it still required concentration and proximity. Their combined shield evolved to incorporate specific defenses against dark creatures, fire, and even some mind-affecting spells. Harry's Metamorphmagus abilities expanded beyond mere cosmetic changes. He discovered he could enhance his physical attributes slightly, improving his vision when needed, increasing his lung capacity for underwater swimming, even accelerating the healing of minor injuries. Tonks found that she could now sense magical signatures at remarkable distances, distinguishing between benign and malevolent intentions with uncanny accuracy. This talent proved invaluable when a group of ministry officials, coincidentally, visited the Muggle village nearest to Hawthorne Hollow, clearly searching for something, or someone. Department of Mysteries, she reported to Moody after observing them from a distance. 3 unspeakables and what looked like a specialized magical detection unit. They're getting bolder, Moody growled. We may need to move again soon. But the ministry team departed without discovering their hidden cottage, and the immediate threat passed. Still, the incident reinforced the precariousness of their situation and the growing interest in their bond. Summer arrived, bringing warm days that Harry spent largely outdoors, practicing flying and dueling with Tonks in the sheltered clearing behind the cottage. His physical confidence had grown along with his magical abilities, no longer the skinny, hesitant child from Privet Drive, but a quick, nimble boy with surprising strength for his age. On a particularly hot day in late July, Tonks organized a special celebration for Harry's 7th birthday. Despite security concerns, she arranged for a few carefully selected visitors, her parents, Moody, and Professor McGonagall, to join them for a small party. 7 is a powerful magical number, Ted Tonks explained as he presented Harry with a hand-carved wooden box. This is a wizard's treasure chest, expands on the inside to hold whatever's important to you, and only opens to your magical signature. Andromeda gave him a set of enchanted drawing supplies that would make his artwork move like wizard photographs. McGonagall brought his first beginner's transfiguration kit, and Moody, ever practical, gifted him with a small penknife that could unlock any door and untie any knot. Tonks's gift came last, a leather wand holster sized for his small wrist. You can't have your own wand until you're 11, she explained, but when we work together, you sometimes channel magic through mine. This way, you'll always have a secure place to keep it. The day was filled with laughter, wizard games, and a magnificent cake shaped like a golden snitch that actually hovered above the table until the first slice was cut. For a few precious hours, the danger and training were forgotten, replaced by the simple joy of celebration. That night, after the guests had departed, Harry sat on his bed examining his new treasures. The bond hummed contentedly between him and Tonks, who was cleaning up the last of the party decorations in the main room. Suddenly, a searing pain shot through his scar. Harry gasped, doubling over as images flooded his mind, a dark forest, a small, twisted creature drinking silvery blood from a dead unicorn, yellow eyes looking up directly at him with hatred and recognition. Harry! Tonks was at his side instantly, having felt his pain through their bond. He knows, Harry choked out, clutching his forehead. He sees me now. He knows about you too. The implications sent terror through them both. Whatever fragile security they had established was compromised if Voldemort could now see through their connection. Without hesitation, Tonks grabbed Harry's hand, channeling her Metamorphmagus abilities through their bond in a way they'd never attempted before. She envisioned their magical signatures changing, shifting, becoming unrecognizable, a mental disguise to complement their physical ones. Purple light enveloped them both as Harry instinctively joined the effort, adding his own will to hers. For a moment, the pain in his scar intensified unbearably, then suddenly vanished completely. They collapsed against each other, drained but triumphant. Through their bond, they could feel the change, a subtle rearrangement of their magical signatures, like instruments changing key in the middle of a song. Did we block him? Harry asked when he could speak again. I think so, Tonks replied, equally exhausted. At least temporarily. We changed how our magic presents itself, like a magical disguise. I can't feel him anymore, Harry confirmed, touching his scar cautiously. It's quiet. They sent an urgent message to Dumbledore, who arrived within the hour despite the late night. After listening to their account, he performed several complex diagnostic spells over both of them. Remarkable, he murmured, studying the results with evident fascination. You've managed to create a form of a clumsy shield through your combined Metamorphmagus abilities, something I've never encountered in all my studies. A clumsy? Harry asked. The magical defense of the mind against external penetration, Dumbledore explained. Typically a very difficult skill requiring years of practice. Yet you've achieved a similar effect through your bond. Will it hold? Tonks asked anxiously. For now, yes. But like any shield, it will require maintenance and strengthening. Dumbledore regarded them both with new assessment in his blue eyes. This development is both concerning and promising. Concerning because it confirms Voldemort can indeed see through Harry's scar connection under certain conditions. Promising because you found a way to block him, a way he's unlikely to anticipate. The incident accelerated their preparation timeline. What had been rigorous training became intensive, specialized preparation for the challenges they now knew were imminent rather than theoretical. Dumbledore himself began teaching Harry the basics of true occlumency, while Tonks worked with Moody on advanced Metamorphmagus techniques that might enhance their mental disguise. Their combined shield practice now incorporated specific defenses against mental intrusion and soul magic. By the end of summer, Harry had mastered the fundamentals of a dozen defensive disciplines, could maintain their combined shield for over an hour without fatigue, and had developed his Metamorphmagus abilities to the point where he could completely alter his appearance for short periods. More importantly, the bond between them had matured into something rare and powerful, a magical symbiosis that multiplied their individual strengths while minimizing their weaknesses. "You've progressed faster than I dared hope," Dumbledore commented during one of his visits in early September. "Both of you." "We've had to," Tonks replied simply, watching Harry practice wandless levitation across the room, effortlessly floating multiple objects in complex patterns. "Indeed." Dumbledore's expression turned grave. "And I fear you will need every skill you've developed. Our sources indicate increased Death Eater activity throughout Europe. They're searching for something, or someone." "Voldemort," Harry said, joining the conversation as he set down the levitated objects. "He's trying to regain a body, isn't he? That's why he was drinking unicorn blood in my vision." Dumbledore nodded solemnly. "Unicorn blood can sustain life, even for one as grievously damaged as Voldemort, but at a terrible price. It is a temporary solution at best." "What's his permanent solution?" Tonks asked, though she feared she knew the answer. "That," Dumbledore said heavily, "is what concerns me most. There are ancient rituals for restoring a disembodied soul to physical form. Most require specific ingredients." "Like what?" Harry pressed. "Bone of the father, flesh of the servant," Dumbledore recited reluctantly, "and blood of the enemy. Forcibly taken." The implication was clear, and it sent a chill through both Harry and Tonks. Their bond resonated with shared determination, to prevent such a ritual at all costs. As autumn painted the hawthorn grove in golds and reds, they continued their preparations, now with the specific goal of thwarting any attempt to use Harry in such a ritual. The mental shield they had created held firm, preventing further visions from Voldemort, though Harry occasionally felt pressure against his scar, testing, seeking a way in. On a crisp October morning, nearly a year since the formation of their bond, Harry and Tonks stood facing each other in the clearing behind the cottage, preparing for their daily practice session. "Today we try something new," Tonks announced, her hair a focused purple that matched the energy of their bond. "We've mastered defensive combinations. Now let's work on offensive ones." Harry nodded, excitement bubbling through their connection. This was the aspect of their combined magic they had explored least, partly due to Dumbledore's caution about drawing attention with powerful magical signatures. "Remember," Tonks continued, "this isn't about raw power, it's about precision and intent. Focus on the target, not the spell itself." She conjured a training dummy at the far end of the clearing, a standard aura practice tool designed to register and measure spell impacts. "Ready?" she asked, holding out her hand. Harry took it without hesitation, their fingers interlacing as the familiar purple glow surrounded them. They had done this hundreds of times now, but the wonder of their combined magic never diminished. "Focus on a basic stunning spell," Tonks instructed. "But channel it through our bond before release." They raised their free hands together, Tonks holding her wand, Harry empty-handed, and concentrated. The purple energy collected at their fingertips, condensing into a pulsing sphere of light. "Stupefy," they called in unison. The spell shot forward with extraordinary speed, far faster than a normal stunning spell. When it struck the training dummy, the impact wasn't the usual red flash, but a purple explosion that blasted the dummy backwards with such force that it shattered against a tree. Bloody hell, Tonks breathed, staring at the destruction. Harry was equally shocked. Was it supposed to do that? Definitely not. Tonks lowered her wand slowly. A stunning spell shouldn't have that kind of physical impact. It's meant to render the target unconscious, not blow them across the clearing. They exchanged concerned glances, both sensing through their bond the implications of such power. It was one thing to create an unusually strong shield, quite another to transform a non-destructive spell into something that could cause serious harm. We need better control, Harry said, releasing Tonks's hand. Maybe start with something simpler. Lumos instead of stupefy. Tonks nodded, impressed by his maturity. Good thinking. Let's take a step back. They spent the remainder of the day working on finer control of their combined magic, starting with simple illumination spells and gradually progressing to more complex effects. By evening, they had developed a better understanding of how to modulate their power, like learning to whisper after only knowing how to shout. That night, as they sat before the fire reviewing their progress, an urgent message arrived from Moody, Greyback spotted near Bristol. Moving north. Possible tracking. The news ended their brief period of relative security. Once again, they needed to prepare for possible relocation. We've stayed here longer than I expected, Tonks acknowledged as they packed emergency bags. Nearly 6 months. It's actually a good run for a safe house. Harry nodded, methodically organizing his few possessions into the wizard's treasure chest from Ted. He had grown accustomed to this nomadic existence, finding peace and stability in their bond rather than in physical location. Where will we go next? He asked. Dumbledore mentioned a place in Scotland, Tonks replied. Near Hogwarts, actually, close enough for additional protection from the castle's magic, but separate enough for privacy. When? Not yet, Tonks decided after consideration. Bristol is a good distance away, and the Hawthorn Grove still provides significant protection against werewolves. We'll wait for Moody's next report before making a move. That report came 3 days later, with reassuring news. Greyback had been tracked to Wales, moving away from their location. The immediate threat had passed. Nevertheless, the incident served as a reminder of their precarious situation. As October gave way to November, marking a full year since their bond's formation, they intensified their practice of rapid relocation techniques, including their unique form of joint apparition through the bond. The key is synchronization, Tonks explained during one such practice session. Our magical cores need to pulse at exactly the same frequency at the moment of departure. Harry nodded, concentrating on the sensation of their bond. After months of practice, he could now perceive the subtle variations in its energy, the way it flowed, pulsed, and resonated between them. I can feel it, he confirmed. Like a heartbeat. Exactly. Now, on 3, we'll both visualize the clearing on the other side of the Hawthorn Grove and push our magic into the bond at precisely the same moment. 1, 2, 3. The purple vortex formed around them instantly, more controlled than in their earlier attempts. When it collapsed, they found themselves exactly where they had intended, a small clearing 100 yards from the cottage. Perfect. Tonks exclaimed, her hair briefly flashing yellow with pleasure. Let's try somewhere further. By the end of the day, they had successfully performed their joint apparition to locations several miles distant, each attempt becoming smoother and requiring less recovery time afterwards. This could be our most valuable skill, Tonks observed as they walked back to the cottage in the gathering dusk. Standard anti-apparition wards won't stop it because it's not technically apparition, it's something new. Harry nodded, feeling a quiet pride in what they had accomplished. Through their bond, he sensed Tonks's matching satisfaction, not just in the practical achievement, but in how far they had come together. As they reached the cottage, however, both froze. Something was wrong. The wards were intact, but there was a disturbance in the magical atmosphere, a subtle wrongness that their enhanced senses detected immediately. Someone's been here, Tonks whispered, drawing her wand. Harry nodded, instinctively moving closer to her. Through their bond, he extended his senses, searching for any lingering magical signature. "Not inside," he murmured. "Around the perimeter. Testing the wards." Tonks cast a complex detection spell, her wand moving in intricate patterns. A ghostly image appeared before them, footprints glowing faintly in magical residue, circling the cottage but never crossing the hawthorn boundary. "Human," she assessed. "Not werewolf. Probably not Death Eater either, the dark mark leaves a distinctive trace." "Ministry?" Harry suggested. "Possibly." Tonks studied the footprints with narrowed eyes. "Or someone else entirely. Either way, our location is compromised." They entered the cottage cautiously, maintaining their vigilance as they packed essential items. Years of Moody's training had ingrained in them both the habit of being ready to move at a moment's notice. "We'll leave at dawn," Tonks decided. "Use the night to obscure our trail. Head to the Scotland location Dumbledore mentioned." Harry nodded, continuing to help with the preparations. Through their bond, Tonks felt his calm acceptance, so different from the frightened child she had first met. At 7 years old, Harry Potter had developed a composure and adaptability that many adult wizards lacked. As they completed their packing, a soft chime indicated someone at the outer wards, not attempting to breach them, but requesting entry in the proper way. Tonks moved to the window, wand ready. "It's Dumbledore," she reported with relief. The headmaster's arrival was fortuitous but not coincidental. "I received an alert when someone tested the boundaries," he explained once inside. "My instruments monitor this location." "Do you know who it was?" Tonks asked. "Not with certainty," Dumbledore replied gravely. "But I have suspicions." The magical signature was familiar. "Death Eater?" Harry asked. "No," Dumbledore said, his blue eyes troubled. "Someone who walks a different path. Someone with a personal interest in your bond." Tonks and Harry exchanged glances, their shared confusion flowing through the bond. "I believe it may have been my brother, Aberforth," Dumbledore admitted reluctantly. "Though why he would be tracking you, I cannot say with certainty." "Your brother?" Tonks repeated incredulously. "Why would he be interested in us?" "Aberforth has unusual connections. He hears things, knows things." Dumbledore sighed heavily. "And he has always taken a different view than mine on certain matters." "Is he dangerous?" Harry asked bluntly. "Not to you, I believe," Dumbledore assured them. "But his interest suggests that knowledge of your bond has spread further than we hoped. It is time for you to relocate." They departed at first light, using their combined apparition technique to travel to the new safe house, a sturdy stone dwelling nestled in the foothills of the Scottish mountains. The location was remote and well protected, with Hogwarts visible as a distant silhouette on clear days. "This will be our final relocation before Hogwarts," Dumbledore informed them as they settled in. "The proximity to the castle allows me to extend certain protections to this dwelling that were not possible elsewhere." The house was larger than their previous safe houses, with separate bedrooms, a well-equipped training room, and a small library stocked with advanced magical texts. It felt more permanent, more like a home than a temporary refuge. "We'll stay here until Harry turns 11. Tonks confirmed. "That is my recommendation," Dumbledore nodded. "The additional space will allow for more specialized training, and the location provides strategic advantages should confrontation become unavoidable." As winter descended on the Scottish Highlands, bringing snow and bitter winds, Harry and Tonks found a new rhythm to their days. Morning academic studies gave way to afternoon practical magic, evenings spent in the library researching their bond and developing new applications for their combined abilities. Visitors were more frequent at this location, Order members bringing news and specialized training, Tonks's parents staying for extended periods, even Professor McGonagall making regular appearances to advance Harry's transfiguration studies. Through it all, their bond continued to mature and strengthen. The purple light that had once been visible whenever they combined their magic now manifested only when they channeled significant power, otherwise remaining an invisible but constant connection between them. Their mental communication improved to the point where they could exchange complex ideas without physical contact, though distance still limited the range to about 50 yards. Their combined shield evolved to incorporate specific counters to dark curses, and their offensive capabilities developed in both power and precision. Most significantly, Harry's Metamorphmagus abilities stabilized into something reliable and controlled. While still not as extensive as Tonks's natural talent, he could maintain altered appearances indefinitely and make changes with mere thought rather than conscious effort. Tonks, meanwhile, discovered that her connection to Harry had enhanced her magical stamina considerably, allowing her to cast powerful spells repeatedly without the fatigue that would normally limit an aura in prolonged combat. As the months passed, news from the wider wizarding world grew increasingly concerning. Death Eater sightings increased across Britain and Europe. Mysterious disappearances were reported with alarming frequency. Strange magical disturbances occurred at sites associated with ancient power. "He's gathering strength," Moody reported grimly during a visit in early spring. "Recruiting, testing defenses, seeking artifacts. Still no direct confirmation of Voldemort himself?" Tonks asked. "Nothing concrete," Moody acknowledged. "But the pattern is clear. Something's building. Something big." Harry, who had been quietly listening, spoke up with the directness that had become characteristic of him. "It'll be a full return, won't it? He's finding a way back to a body." Moody's magical eye fixed on Harry with approval. "That's my assessment as well, lad. And when he does, we'll be ready," Harry said with quiet determination. The conviction in his young voice might have seemed presumptuous from any other 7-year-old. But those who had witnessed Harry's development, his magical growth, his tactical understanding, his sheer force of will, recognized it as simple fact. Through their bond, Tonks felt Harry's resolve, not bravado or childish fantasy, but the steady purpose of someone who understood exactly what he faced and was preparing accordingly. "Yes," she agreed, taking his hand. "We will be." The purple light of their bond pulsed briefly between their joined hands, a silent promise, a shared commitment to whatever lay ahead. They had come so far from that rainy night in Surrey when their lives had first connected. Whatever challenges awaited them, they would face them as they had faced everything else, together. Chapter 3, Twin Flames. The Scottish Highlands bloomed with heather and gorse as summer arrived, painting the rugged landscape in purples and golds. Harry Potter stood atop a rocky outcropping near their mountain home, eyes closed, face tilted toward the sun. At 10 years old, he bore little resemblance to the frightened boy who had once lived in a cupboard under the stairs. He was taller now, his frame lean but strong from years of magical and physical training. His trademark unruly black hair ruffled in the Highland breeze, though at the moment it was shifting through shades of blue, a casual exercise of his Metamorphmagus abilities that had become second nature. Behind closed eyelids, Harry extended his senses through the bond he shared with Tonks, who was patrolling the perimeter a quarter-mile away. He could feel her alertness, her methodical attention as she checked their protective enchantments. For years of constant connection had made their bond as natural as breathing, a permanent bridge between two minds that had learned to balance intimacy with independence. "I know you're eavesdropping," Tonks's amused voice echoed in his mind. "Find anything interesting?" Harry grinned. "Just checking your defenses." Moody would be proud. Constant vigilance, they thought simultaneously, sharing the private joke. Harry opened his eyes and looked toward Hogwarts, visible as a distant silhouette against the horizon. In just over a month, he would be there, a student at last, embarking on the next phase of their carefully orchestrated plan. The prospect filled him with a mixture of excitement and apprehension that rippled through their bond. Sensing his mood shift, Tonks appeared with a soft pop of apparition beside him on the outcropping. "Second thoughts?" she asked, her hair a thoughtful blue that matched his own. "Not exactly." Harry turned to face her. "Just thinking about how everything will change." "Again." Tonks nodded, understanding completely. Their 4 years together had been intense, isolated, and entirely focused on preparation. Hogwarts would mean other children, different authority figures, complex social dynamics, all while maintaining the secrecy of their bond and remaining vigilant against multiple threats. It'll be an adjustment, she acknowledged. But we've handled worse. I know. Harry's expression brightened. Besides, I'm looking forward to making actual friends my age. Tonks mussed his hair affectionately. What, am I not entertaining enough for you? You'll do in a pinch, Harry replied with the dry humor he'd developed under her influence. Through their bond, the warm affection beneath his teasing was unmistakable. They made their way back to the house, a sturdy stone structure that had been their home for over 2 years, the longest they'd stayed in any one place since forming their bond. Inside, evidence of their preparation for Hogwarts was everywhere: new school trunks, stacks of textbooks, a cauldron still smoking from the morning's potion practice. Letter from Dumbledore, Tonks said, pointing to a scroll on the kitchen table. Arrived while you were meditating. Harry unrolled the parchment, his eyes scanning the headmaster's elegant script. He wants us at Hogwarts next week for final arrangements. Says my official letter should arrive tomorrow. Earlier than expected, Tonks noted, filling 2 glasses with pumpkin juice. I wonder what's changed. Harry handed her the letter. He mentions developments requiring adjustment of our timeline. Typical Dumbledore, cryptic as ever. Tonks frowned as she read. We should prepare for earlier departure, then. I'll contact my parents and Moody. Though they'd maintained their vigilance throughout the relatively peaceful Scottish years, both had grown accustomed to a certain rhythm of life. The prospect of accelerating their plans sent a ripple of alertness through their bond, a shared readiness that had been honed through countless drills and several genuine emergencies. I'll check the emergency packs, Harry said, already moving toward the storage room where their always-ready bags were kept. This well-practiced efficiency was the result of 4 years of training under Moody, Dumbledore, and various order members. Harry at 10 possessed more defensive knowledge and practical experience than most adult wizards, a necessity, given the unique threats against him. As Harry inventoried their supplies, Tonks sent Patronus messages to their key contacts. Her silvery jackrabbit bounded away into the summer sky, carrying encoded updates that only the intended recipients could fully understand, another security measure insisted upon by Moody's relentless paranoia. By evening, they had reorganized their departure plans, packed their essential items, and strengthened the house's protective enchantments. Whatever Dumbledore's urgency signified, they would be ready. They were finishing dinner when a distinctive crack of apparition outside the wards alerted them to a visitor. Through their bond, they simultaneously sensed the magical signature, familiar but unexpected. Kingsley, Tonks identified, drawing her wand nevertheless. Constant vigilance had become their shared motto. The tall, bald Auror waited patiently at the edge of their protective enchantments until Tonks verified his identity and admitted him through a temporary opening in the wards. Apologies for the unannounced visit, Kingsley said, his deep voice as calm as ever despite the obvious urgency of his presence. Dumbledore sent me. What's happened? Harry asked directly, setting aside his plate. Kingsley's gaze shifted between them, his expression grave. There's been a break-in at the Department of Mysteries. The Hall of Prophecy. Tonks tensed visibly. Death Eaters? Unknown, Kingsley replied. The intruder evaded capture, but left a message. He hesitated, glancing at Harry. Whatever it is, we both need to hear it, Tonks said firmly, moving to stand beside Harry. Our bond means no secrets. Kingsley nodded, understanding their unique situation. The message was left where a specific prophecy orb should have been, one labeled with both Voldemort's name and Harry's. A prophecy about me and Voldemort? Harry asked, surprised but not shocked. He'd long suspected there was more to his connection with the Dark Lord than he'd been told. Yes. One that Dumbledore has been guarding knowledge of for years. Kingsley produced a small vial of swirling silver memory. He sent this for you both to view. Said it's time you knew everything. Tonks accepted the vial, her expression solemn. And the message left by the intruder? Written in what appeared to be blood on the shelf where the prophecy should have been. Kingsley's voice dropped lower. The bonded one cannot hide forever. Two flames will burn as one. Harry and Tonks exchanged alarmed glances, their bond humming with shared concern. The message clearly referred to them, to their soul bond and its unique purple flame signature. Who else knows that phrase? Harry asked. Two flames will burn as one. It's something Dumbledore said when explaining our bond to us years ago. That's why he's accelerated the timeline, Kingsley confirmed. Someone with intimate knowledge of your bond has accessed the Hall of Prophecy, and left a message intended specifically for you. After Kingsley departed, Tonks retrieved their pensieve, a gift from Dumbledore during their second year together. They'd used it primarily for training purposes, allowing Harry to observe complex spell techniques that would otherwise be years beyond his experience. Ready? She asked, pouring Dumbledore's silvery memory into the stone basin. Harry nodded, and together they leaned forward, feeling the familiar sensation of falling into someone else's memory. They landed in a shabby room that Harry recognized as the Hog's Head Inn from Tonks's descriptions of Hogsmeade. A younger Dumbledore sat across from a thin woman draped in shawls, her eyes magnified behind thick glasses. Thank you for meeting with me, Sybil, Memory Dumbledore was saying. Though I must confess, I'm not certain the divination position, he broke off as the woman's posture suddenly stiffened. Her eyes rolled back, and when she spoke again, her voice was harsh and deep, utterly unlike her previous ethereal tone, the one with the power to vanquish the Dark Lord approaches. Born to those who have thrice defied him, born as the seventh month dies. And the Dark Lord will mark him as his equal, but he will have power the Dark Lord knows not. And either must die at the hand of the other, for neither can live while the other survives. The one with the power to vanquish the Dark Lord will be born as the seventh month dies. The woman, Sybil, slumped forward slightly, then straightened again, appearing confused. I'm sorry, where were we? As I was saying about my great-grandmother. The memory shifted, and now they were in Dumbledore's office at Hogwarts. The headmaster was speaking directly to them, or rather, to the memory's viewer. You needed to hear the exact wording, Memory Dumbledore explained gravely. This prophecy is what led Voldemort to target Harry Potter specifically, though he only heard the first part, not the crucial details about being marked as an equal or possessing a power unknown to him. The memory dissolved, and Harry and Tonks found themselves back in their kitchen, staring at each other with new understanding. That's why he came after my parents, Harry said quietly. Why he tried to kill me as a baby. Because of this prophecy. Tonks nodded slowly, her mind racing to connect pieces that had long been obscured. And the power he knows not, could it be our bond? It must be, Harry agreed. That's why whoever broke into the Department of Mysteries left that message about two flames. They know about the prophecy and about our bond. But how? Tonks ran a hand through her hair, which had turned an anxious red. Only Dumbledore, Moody, my parents, and a few trusted Order members know the full nature of our connection. Someone betrayed us, Harry said grimly. Or someone figured it out independently. They spent the night reviewing their security measures, identifying potential vulnerabilities, and preparing for immediate departure if necessary. Through their bond, they shared a growing sense of urgency. The peaceful interval of their Scottish years was ending. Harry's Hogwarts letter arrived at dawn, carried by a tawny owl that swooped through their kitchen window during breakfast. Despite the tension of the previous night, Harry couldn't help feeling a thrill of excitement as he broke the wax seal and unfolded the parchment. Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry Headmaster, Albus Dumbledore, Order of Merlin, First Class, Grand Source, CHF, Warlock, Supreme Mugwump, International Confede, of Wizards, dear Mr. Potter, we are pleased to inform you that you have been accepted at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Please find enclosed a list of all necessary books and equipment. Term begins on September 1st. We await your owl by no later than July 31st. Yours sincerely, Minerva McGonagall Deputy Headmistress. It's really happening, Harry said, a smile breaking across his face despite the dangers they faced. After all these years of preparation, Tonks felt his excitement ripple through their bond, pure and untainted by the complications they both understood lay ahead. For a moment, she simply enjoyed his happiness, allowing herself to share in it. We should celebrate, she decided impulsively. One last adventure before Hogwarts and official business take over. What did you have in mind? Harry asked, intrigued by the mischievous glint in her eye. Diagon Alley, Tonks declared. Not just for supplies, but the full experience. Ice cream at Fortescue's, browsing at quality Quidditch supplies, the works. Is that safe? Harry asked, though she could feel his enthusiasm at the prospect. With proper precautions, Tonks assured him. We'll both be disguised, of course. And after yesterday's news, we need to make the trip anyway to get your school supplies. Might as well make it fun. They spent an hour preparing their disguises, more elaborate than usual given the heightened security concerns. Harry transformed into a brown-haired, round-faced boy with no trace of his scar, while Tonks assumed the appearance of a middle-aged witch with streaks of grey in her otherwise auburn hair. Remember, you're Henry Tonkins, my nephew, Tonks reminded him as they prepared to float to the leaky cauldron. We stick together, maintain constant awareness, and if anything feels wrong, we use the emergency port key and meet at rendezvous point 3, Harry finished. I remember the drill, Auntie Melinda. Tonks smiled at his use of her cover name. Cheeky brat. After you, then. Diagon Alley was bustling with preterm activity. Families with school-age children crowded the shops, examining cauldrons, selecting books, and being fitted for robes. Harry observed it all with keen interest. These would be his classmates in just a few weeks. Their first stop was Gringotts, where Tonks presented a special key provided by Dumbledore, access to a trust vault established for Harry's education. The cart ride to the underground vault was exhilarating, and Harry marveled at the mountain of gold, silver, and bronze coins inside. That's all mine, he whispered as they filled a money pouch. Your parents provided for you, Tonks explained quietly. This is just your trust vault for school expenses. There's a larger family vault you'll gain access to when you come of age. With their money pouch filled, they proceeded to collect Harry's school supplies, cauldron, telescope, scales, and basic potion ingredients. At Flourish and Blotts, they purchased his required textbooks, plus a few additional volumes that caught his interest. You already know most of the first-year material, Tonks observed as Harry examined the Standard Book of Spells, Grade 1, with a slight frown. But it's important to follow the curriculum like any other student. I know, Harry sighed. It's just going to be strange, pretending I'm just learning these spells for the first time. Consider it stealth training, Tonks suggested with a wink. Moody would approve. Their next stop was Madame Malkin's for school robes. As Harry stood on a footstool being measured, another boy his age entered the shop, pale, pointed-faced, with white blonde hair and a superior expression. Hogwarts too, the boy drawled as he took the footstool beside Harry. Yes, Harry replied politely, maintaining his disguise both physically and behaviorally. My father's next door buying my books and mother's up the street looking at wands, the boy said in a bored voice. Then I'm going to drag them off to look at racing brooms. I don't see why first years can't have their own. I think I'll bully father into getting me one and I'll smuggle it in somehow. Harry exchanged a glance with Tonks, who was pretending to examine fabric samples nearby. Through their bond, he felt her recognition of the boy, a Malfoy, undoubtedly Lucius's son. Have you got your own broom? The Malfoy boy continued. Yes, Harry answered truthfully. But I'm following the rules. First years will have flying lessons anyway. The boy sniffed dismissively. I already know how to fly. Been doing it for years. He peered at Harry more closely. What's your surname, anyway? Before Harry could answer, Madame Malkin announced that the Malfoy boy's robes were finished. With a final appraising look at Harry, he hopped down from the footstool and strode from the shop, clearly expecting his robes to be paid for later. Draco Malfoy, Tonks murmured as they left the shop a few minutes later with Harry's new robes. Exactly like his father from the sound of it. He'll be in my year, Harry noted. Probably Slytherin, based on his family. Just remember what we discussed about house rivalries, Tonks cautioned. They're mostly artificial distinctions. Judge people by their actions, not their house colors. Their final stop, and the one Harry had been most looking forward to, was Ollivander's, the wandmaker's shop. Unlike his other school supplies, this would be genuinely new territory. Though he had channeled magic through Tonks's wand countless times, he had never possessed one of his own. The shop was narrow and shabby, a single wand lying on a faded purple cushion in the dusty window. As they entered, a small bell tinkled somewhere in the depths of the shop. Harry felt a strange tingle along his spine, a sense of ancient magic that even their disguises couldn't mask. "Good afternoon," said a soft voice. An old man stood before them, his wide, pale eyes shining like moons in the gloom of the shop. "Hello," Harry said, suddenly nervous. "Ah, yes," the man said, studying Harry with unsettling intensity. "I've been expecting you, Mr. Potter." Harry stiffened in alarm. Beside him, Tonks moved subtly into a defensive position, her hand near her concealed wand. "Our disguises," Harry began. "Are quite excellent," Ollivander assured him. "No ordinary wizard would see through them. But I am a wandmaker, Mr. Potter. I see the magical signature, not the physical form." His silvery eyes shifted to Tonks. "And yours, Miss Tonks, has developed some fascinating harmonics since you purchased your Rowan and Dragon heartstring wand 9 years ago." Through their bond, Harry felt Tonks's cautious assessment. Ollivander knew who they were, but didn't appear to present an immediate threat. "We would appreciate your discretion," she said carefully. Of course," Ollivander nodded. "Wandmakers have maintained client confidentiality since the days of Antioch Peveril." He turned his attention back to Harry. "Now then, Mr. Potter. Let us find you your wand, or rather, let the wand find you." What followed was a fascinating process of trial and error. Ollivander presented Harry with wand after wand, each time snatching it back almost immediately with comments like, "No, no, definitely not," or, "Close, but not quite right." As the pile of rejected wands grew, Harry began to worry. What if no wand chose him? What if the bond with Tonks had somehow interfered with his ability to connect with a wand of his own? "Tricky customer," Ollivander murmured, seemingly delighted by the challenge. "Not to worry, we'll find the perfect match." He paused, a thoughtful expression crossing his ancient face. "I wonder, yes, why not, unusual combination." He disappeared into the back of his shop and returned with a dusty box that seemed older than the others. "Holly and Phoenix feather, 11 inches, nice and supple. Go on, try it." The moment Harry's fingers closed around the wand, he knew this was different. A sudden warmth spread through his hand, and when he gave it a wave, a stream of purple and gold sparks shot from the end like a firework, casting dancing spots of light on the walls. Ollivander clapped his hands together. "Oh, bravo! Yes, indeed, very good. Well, how curious, how very curious." "What's curious?" Harry asked, still marveling at the connection he felt with the wand. Ollivander fixed Harry with his pale stare. "I remember every wand I've ever sold, Mr. Potter. Every single wand. It so happens that the phoenix whose tail feather is in your wand gave another feather, just one other. It is very curious indeed that you should be destined for this wand when its brother, why, its brother gave you that scar." Harry felt a chill run down his spine. Through their bond, Tonks's alarm mirrored his own. "Yes, 13.5 inches. You. Curious indeed how these things happen. The wand chooses the wizard, remember. I think we must expect great things from you, Mr. Potter. After all, he who must not be named did great things, terrible, yes, but great." As Tonks paid 7 galleons for the wand, Harry examined it with new wariness. The brother wand to Voldemort's. Another connection between them, beyond the scar and the prophecy. Outside the shop, Tonks guided him to a quiet side street. "You okay?" she asked softly. Harry nodded slowly. "Just, processing." "Do you think Dumbledore knew?" "Probably," Tonks admitted. "He seems to know everything about your connections to Voldemort." They completed their shopping expedition with the promised treat at Fortescue's ice cream parlor, a massive sundae for Harry and color-changing sorbet for Tonks. Despite the concerning revelation at Ollivander's, they managed to enjoy this small celebration of Harry's official entry into the wizarding world as a student. As they prepared to return home, however, Harry felt a strange sensation, a prickling along the back of his neck, as if they were being watched. Through their bond, Tonks immediately picked up on his unease. "Don't react obviously," she murmured, "but I feel it too. Someone's tracking us magically." They continued walking casually toward the leaky cauldron, but Tonks subtly steered them down a different side street, one that would allow them to circle back and potentially spot their observer. The narrow alley was deserted except for a stray cat picking through discarded cauldron cake wrappers. As they reached the midpoint, however, a figure stepped out from behind a stack of empty crates, blocking their path. "Mr. Potter," a smooth voice called. "How fortuitous to encounter you today." The speaker was a tall, elegant wizard with aristocratic features and long platinum blonde hair. Though Harry had never met him personally, he recognized Lucius Malfoy from both Tonks's memories and his own research into Death Eaters. "I believe you have me confused with someone else," Harry replied evenly, maintaining his disguise. Malfoy's thin lips curved into a knowing smile. "Excellent transformation work, I must say. Almost perfect." He twirled a black cane with a silver serpent head between his fingers. "But certain magical signatures are unmistakable. Particularly when they've been described so precisely." Tonks moved slightly in front of Harry, her disguised appearance not changing but her stance shifting to combat readiness. "We have nothing to discuss with you, Malfoy." "Oh, but I think you do, Ms. Tonks." Malfoy's cold grey eyes gleamed with triumph. "Or should I say, the bonded guardian? The second flame?" Harry felt Tonks's shock ripple through their connection. Those phrases, direct references to their bond, confirmed their worst fears about the Department of Mysteries break-in. "What do you want?" Harry asked directly, seeing no point in maintaining the pretense. "Merely to deliver a message," Malfoy replied smoothly. "From an interested party who greatly desires a meeting with you both." "Voldemort," Harry said flatly. Malfoy flinched slightly at the name. "The Dark Lord has taken great interest in the unique magic you two have discovered. He believes it could be beneficial to all parties if you were to share your insights." "And if we decline this generous invitation?" Tonks asked, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Then certain protections you've relied upon might prove less effective than you imagine." Malfoy's voice hardened. "The Fidelius charm, for instance, is only as strong as its secret keeper's loyalty." The implication sent a chill through both Harry and Tonks. Was Malfoy suggesting they had a traitor in their inner circle? Or was he bluffing, trying to sow distrust? "You have 1 week to consider the offer," Malfoy continued. "A neutral location will be arranged for the meeting. No harm will come to either of you, you have the Dark Lord's word." "The word of a man who murdered my parents?" Harry asked incredulously. "I think we'll pass." Malfoy's expression darkened. "This isn't a request that can be declined, Potter. The Dark Lord gets what he wants, one way or another." With a flick of his wand, Malfoy conjured a small object that hovered between them, a miniature crystal vial containing what appeared to be a swirling memory, similar to what they'd viewed in the pensieve earlier. "A gesture of good faith," Malfoy explained. "Information you might find illuminating. Particularly regarding the true nature of your bond." Harry made no move to take the vial. "And in return?" Simply your consideration of the offer. Malfoy guided the vial to float gently into Harry's robe pocket. 7 days, Mr. Potter. Choose wisely. With a crack of apparition, Malfoy vanished, leaving Harry and Tonks alone in the alley. Emergency exit, Tonks said immediately. Now. They abandoned their original departure plan, instead activating a special portkey disguised as a quill in Tonks's pocket. With the familiar hook behind the naval sensation, they were whisked away to one of Moody's safe houses, not their Scottish home, which they now had to assume was compromised. The safe house was a small, nondescript cottage on the coast of Cornwall, heavily warded and unplottable. As soon as they arrived, Tonks cast additional protective enchantments while Harry sent emergency Patronus messages to Dumbledore and Moody. Our disguises shouldn't have failed, Tonks said, pacing anxiously once they'd secured the perimeter. Not even Malfoy should have been able to see through both Metamorphmagus transformations. He said our magical signatures were unmistakable, Harry recalled, dropping his disguise and returning to his natural appearance. And that they'd been described precisely to him. Someone who knows the exact nature of our bond betrayed us, Tonks concluded grimly. Someone with intimate knowledge of how our magic works together. Harry removed the crystal vial from his pocket, eyeing it warily. Should we view this? Not until Dumbledore checks it for curses, Tonks decided. It could be a trap, a way to plant false information or worse. They didn't have to wait long for responses. Moody arrived first, his magical eye swiveling madly as he conducted his own inspection of the safe house. Constant vigilance, he barked by way of greeting. Good decision not returning home. Place is probably being watched. Dumbledore arrived shortly after, his expression grave as they recounted their encounter with Malfoy and his ominous message. This is most concerning, the headmaster said when they finished. Particularly the reference to the Fidelius charm, as I am the secret keeper for your Scottish residence. You think Malfoy was suggesting you might betray us? Harry asked incredulously. More likely he was attempting to sow discord and uncertainty, Dumbledore replied. A common tactic. However, the fact remains that someone with knowledge of your bond has indeed shared information with Voldemort's followers. But who? Tonks asked, frustrated. The circle who knows the full nature of our bond is tiny. Perhaps not as tiny as we believed, Dumbledore suggested. The magical world has ways of observing rare phenomena. Your combined magic has been witnessed on several occasions over the years, despite our precautions. He turned his attention to the crystal vial Harry had placed on the table. Drawing his wand, Dumbledore performed a series of complex detection spells over it. No obvious curses or compulsions, he announced finally. However, this is not an ordinary memory. It appears to be a constructed vision, part memory, part magical theory, designed to convey specific information. A lure, Moody growled. Bait to draw you in. Possibly, Dumbledore agreed. Yet it may also contain valuable insights. Voldemort has studied ancient magic extensively, he may understand aspects of your bond that we have yet to discover. After further discussion, they decided to view the contents of the vial, but with precautions. Dumbledore would enter the pensive first, alone, to assess any dangers before Harry and Tonks followed. The process took nearly an hour, during which Moody reinforced the cottage's protections and established emergency evacuation routes. When Dumbledore finally emerged from the pensive, his expression was troubled. It is safe to view, he confirmed, but the contents are disturbing in their implications. I believe you should both see for yourselves, however. Harry and Tonks exchanged determined glances, then plunged into the silvery substance together. They found themselves in a vast, dark chamber, illuminated only by torches with strange blue flames. Ancient runes covered the walls, and at the center stood a raised stone dais with an archway containing a tattered black veil that moved slightly despite the still air. A figure stood before the archway, tall, pale, and inhumanly thin. Though his back was to them, Harry recognized him instantly from his nightmares, Lord Voldemort, or some version of him. The Department of Mysteries, Tonks whispered. The Death Chamber. The Voldemort figure turned, as if hearing her, though this was clearly impossible in a memory. His face was not the snake-like visage Harry had glimpsed in dreams, but something more transitional, handsome features distorted by dark magic, yet not fully transformed into the inhuman countenance he would eventually possess. Harry Potter, the figure spoke, his voice high and cold. And Nymphadora Tonks. How fascinating you both are. It was disorienting, the memory or vision had been constructed to appear interactive, as though Voldemort were actually addressing them. You wonder how I know of your bond, the Voldemort figure continued. How I understand its nature better, perhaps, than even Dumbledore himself. The answer is simple, I have studied soul magic more extensively than any wizard in history. He gestured, and the scene shifted. Now they stood in what appeared to be an ancient library, scrolls and tomes piled high on dark wood tables. The anima vinculum, Voldemort narrated, is not merely a connection between two magical cores, as you have been led to believe. It is a fusion of souls, partial but permanent. What makes yours unique is not the bond itself, but the participants. The scene changed again, showing a swirling purple mist that Harry recognized as a representation of their bond. A Metamorphmagus, a witch whose very essence is mutable, adaptive, bonded to a boy who already contained a fragment of another's soul. Voldemort's voice grew almost eager. Can you not see the implications? Your bond didn't merely connect you, it transformed you both at the fundamental level. Harry felt Tonks's shock mirroring his own. Another's soul. What was Voldemort suggesting? The scene shifted once more, showing a familiar lightning bolt scar, Harry's scar, glowing with an eerie red light. When I tried to kill you as an infant, Potter, something unexpected occurred. The killing curse rebounded, yes, but not before a fragment of my soul attached itself to you. You became my unintentional Horcrux. Horror coursed through their bond, a shared revulsion at the implication. But then, Voldemort continued, you formed this remarkable bond with Ms. Tonks. And in doing so, you diluted my soul fragment, spread it between you both through your connection. Neither of you is fully a Horcrux now, yet both carry traces of my magical signature. The scene returned to the Death Chamber, Voldemort facing them directly. This is why I wish to meet. Not to harm you, but to study what you've accomplished. You've done something I believed impossible, redistributed a soul fragment without destroying it. Such magic has implications for my own work. The figure smiled coldly. Consider my offer carefully. I can teach you to master this bond completely, to harness its full potential. In exchange, I ask only for the opportunity to examine its properties. A fair trade, I believe. The vision began to fade, Voldemort's final words lingering in the air, 7 days, Harry Potter. Choose cooperation or conflict, but choose you must. They emerged from the pensive gasping, as though they'd been underwater. Harry's scar burned painfully, and through their bond, he could feel Tonks's mind reeling with shock and revulsion. Is it true? Harry demanded, turning to Dumbledore. Are we, carrying a piece of Voldemort's soul? Dumbledore's ancient face seemed to age further before their eyes. I have suspected for some time that your scar represented more than an ordinary curse mark, he admitted heavily. The connection you've demonstrated to Voldemort's thoughts and emotions suggested a deeper link. You knew. Tonks's hair flared angry red. You knew Harry was a Horcrux and you never told us. I had theories, not certainty, Dumbledore replied calmly. And I feared what such knowledge might do to Harry at a younger age. But the bond, did it really spread Voldemort's soul fragment between us? Harry asked, struggling to process the horrifying concept. That appears to be what occurred, Dumbledore nodded. Your bond essentially diluted the Horcrux, making it less potent in either of you individually. It explains why your connection to Voldemort weakened after the bond formed, Harry. Moody, who had been silently observing, finally spoke. Explains why the Dark Lord wants to study them too. If they'd found a way to move soul fragments without destroying them, he could relocate his other Horcruxes if they're threatened, Dumbledore finished gravely. A concerning possibility indeed. Harry felt numb. All these years of training, preparation, developing their bond, and now to learn that the connection he cherished with Tonks was tainted by a fragment of Voldemort's soul. It was almost too much to bear. Through their bond, however, he felt Tonks's fierce determination cutting through his despair. Her thoughts reached him clearly, this changes nothing about us. Our bond is ours, not his. Harry drew strength from her certainty. She was right, whatever the origin or complication of their bond, what they had built together over 4 years was real and powerful. We're not meeting with him, Harry said firmly, finding his voice again. Whatever knowledge he's offering isn't worth the risk. Agreed, Tonks said immediately. But this does change our plans. We can't wait until September for Harry to start at Hogwarts. We need to accelerate everything. Dumbledore nodded gravely. I concur. The protection of Hogwarts is now essential. I suggest we move you both to the castle immediately, under the pretext of preparing for your teaching role, Miss Tonks. What about Malfoy's 7-day deadline? Harry asked. A diversion will be arranged, Dumbledore assured them. Something to make Voldemort and his followers believe you are considering the offer while we secure you at Hogwarts. The next few hours passed in a flurry of activity. Moody departed to gather trusted Order members for an escort mission. Dumbledore returned briefly to Hogwarts to prepare for their early arrival. Tonks and Harry packed the emergency supplies they'd brought, while making plans to retrieve or replace their other possessions. As night fell, they sat side by side on the cottage's small porch, watching waves crash against the Cornish cliffs. Despite the revelations and dangers of the day, there was a strange peace in simply being together, their bond humming quietly between them. Are you okay? Tonks asked softly. Really? Harry considered the question seriously. I think so. It's a lot to process, being a Horcrux, or part of one. But it actually explains some things I've wondered about. Like what? Like why Voldemort tried to kill me as a baby. Why we have this connection through my scar. He touched the lightning bolt mark absently. And maybe why our bond forms so easily. If my soul was already damaged or altered by his fragment. Tonks nodded thoughtfully. It might have made you more receptive to a soul connection. She bumped his shoulder gently with her own. Silver lining to a pretty dark cloud, I guess. There's something else, Harry said after a moment. Something I've been thinking about since we viewed that memory. If the bond really did spread Voldemort's soul fragment between us, diluting it. Then maybe there's a way to dilute it further, Tonks finished his thought. Or even, eliminate it completely. Their eyes met, a shared realization flowing through their bond. If one unexpected soul bond could transform a Horcrux, perhaps they could deliberately use their connection to purge Voldemort's influence entirely. We should discuss this with Dumbledore, Tonks decided. He might know if it's possible. Before they could explore the idea further, however, a silvery lynx Patronus bounded onto the porch, Kingsley's messenger. Escort arrives at midnight, the lynx announced in Kingsley's deep voice. Prepare for direct transfer to Hogwarts. Possible surveillance on all known routes. Their moment of quiet reflection was over. Once again, they needed to focus on immediate security and survival. We should practice our combined shield one more time, Harry suggested, standing and offering Tonks his hand. If we're going to be traveling through potentially hostile territory. Tonks nodded, taking his hand. The familiar purple glow emanated from their joined palms as they synchronized their magical cores, a process that had become as natural as breathing after 4 years of practice. The shield expanded around them, stronger and more refined than ever before. Through years of experimentation, they had learned to layer specific protections into its structure, resistance to physical objects, most spells, magical detection, and even certain mind-influencing enchantments. What had once been a raw outburst of combined power had evolved into something sophisticated and precise, a perfect metaphor for how their bond itself had matured. As midnight approached, they completed final preparations. Harry changed his appearance, not a full Metamorphmagus transformation, but enough alterations to be unrecognizable at a distance. Tonks assumed a disguise as well, though one that would allow for quick combat transformation if needed. The escort arrived precisely on schedule: Kingsley, Moody, and 3 other Aurors Harry recognized from previous training sessions. Their plan was direct but multi-layered: a portkey to a secure ministry location, followed by flood transport to Hogsmeade, then a hidden passage into Hogwarts itself. Multiple decoys have been dispatched, Kingsley informed them as they prepared to depart. Reports of Potter sightings in 3 different countries should keep Death Eater attention divided. The journey proceeded smoothly until they reached Hogsmeade. As they emerged from the flue in the 3 Broomsticks, a wizard pub that had been specially cleared for their arrival, Harry felt a familiar prickling sensation along his scar. Through their bond, Tonks immediately sensed his alarm. Danger, she thought clearly, moving closer to him. Something's wrong, Harry murmured to Moody, who was leading their group toward the exit. We're being watched. Moody's magical eye swiveled rapidly, scanning through walls and darkness beyond. Multiple figures on the rooftops, he confirmed grimly. And 2 more at the path to Hogwarts. Ambush. Their escort formed a protective formation around Harry and Tonks, wands at the ready. Through the pub's windows, they could see the previously empty street now held several shadowy figures converging on the building. Back door, Kingsley decided, signaling the group to retreat toward the pub's kitchen. Before they could move, however, every window in the 3 Broomsticks shattered simultaneously, showering them with glass as dark shapes hurtled through the openings, wizard attackers on broomsticks. Protego, the Aurors shouted in unison, forming a ring of shields. Harry and Tonks needed no verbal communication. In perfect synchronization, they clasped hands, channeling their combined power into their unique shield. The purple dome expanded outward, encompassing not just themselves but their entire escort group. Spells from the attackers, mostly stunning and binding hexes, splashed harmlessly against the purple barrier. Through their bond, Harry and Tonks coordinated perfectly, maintaining the shield while analyzing escape options. We can't hold this indefinitely, Tonks thought clearly to Harry. Need to go offensive. Harry nodded imperceptibly. On 3, we drop the shield just enough for Kingsley and Moody to attack, then raise it immediately. Their mental count synchronized perfectly. At 3, they modified the shield, creating a brief opening on one side. Instantly, Kingsley and Moody fired blasting curses through the gap, sending 2 attackers flying across the pub. The shield closed again before any counterattack could penetrate. They repeated this coordinated tactic twice more, each time allowing different members of their escort to attack while remaining protected. The kitchen, Moody growled during a brief lull. There's a cellar access to the Hogwarts tunnels. Move on my signal. Harry and Tonks prepared to convert their stationary shield into a mobile one, a technique they had practiced but rarely needed to employ in real situations. It would allow movement while maintaining protection, though at greater magical cost. Now! Moody barked. They surged toward the kitchen as one unit, the purple shield flowing with them like a bubble. Behind the bar, one of the attackers rose up, face concealed behind a silver mask that marked him as a Death Eater rather than an ordinary dark wizard. The Dark Lord sends his regards, Potter, the figure called, raising his wand. Avada Kedavra. The killing curse, the one spell they knew their shield couldn't block completely, streaked toward them. Acting on pure instinct honed through years of training, Harry and Tonks poured everything they had into the shield while simultaneously diving in opposite directions, pulling their escort group apart. The green light struck the center of their purple shield. Instead of passing through as expected, something extraordinary happened. The killing curse seemed to be absorbed into the shield, which flared blindingly bright for an instant, then released the energy outward in a concussive wave that knocked everyone, attackers and defenders alike, off their feet. In the moment of stunned silence that followed, Tonks recovered first. "Move!" she shouted, grabbing Harry's hand again. They dashed for the kitchen, their escort scrambling after them. Behind the stove, Moody tapped a specific sequence on what appeared to be an ordinary brick wall, revealing a hidden passage. "Go, go," he urged, ushering them through. The passage sealed behind them just as renewed spellfire erupted in the kitchen. They found themselves in a narrow, dimly lit tunnel that sloped upward toward the distant castle. "What just happened back there?" one of the Aurors asked, breathless. "That shield, it absorbed a killing curse." "Discuss later," Moody growled. "Move now." They hurried through the tunnel, Harry and Tonks in the center of the group, both processing the unexpected development through their bond. Their shield had never done that before, absorbing and redirecting a killing curse should have been impossible. The tunnel eventually emerged behind a tapestry on Hogwarts' third floor. Dumbledore was waiting for them, already informed of the attack through some unknown means. "To my office, quickly," he directed, leading them through deserted corridors. The castle was eerily quiet, most of the staff away for summer holidays. Once safely ensconced in the circular tower office, with its whirring silver instruments and portraits of sleeping former headmasters, they recounted the ambush and the shield's unexpected behavior. "Most remarkable," Dumbledore murmured when they described how the killing curse had been absorbed rather than penetrating their shield. "Though perhaps not entirely unexpected, given recent revelations." "What do you mean?" Harry asked. Dumbledore paced thoughtfully before the fire. "If Voldemort's theory is correct, that your bond has distributed a fragment of his soul between you, then your combined shield may possess properties related to that connection. The killing curse he cast against you as a baby rebounded due to your mother's protective sacrifice. Perhaps your shield now carries an echo of that protection, enhanced by your shared soul magic." "Are you saying we're immune to the killing curse?" Tonks asked incredulously. "Not immune, no," Dumbledore cautioned. "But potentially capable of deflecting or redirecting it under very specific circumstances. It would require further study to understand fully, study I hesitate to recommend, given the risks involved." Harry and Tonks exchanged glances, their bond humming with shared realization, another unique property of their connection, another reason Voldemort wanted to examine it. "The attack tonight confirms that Voldemort's interest in you both has escalated beyond mere curiosity," Dumbledore continued gravely. "He now sees your bond as something to be either controlled or eliminated." "So what's our next move?" Harry asked. "You will both remain at Hogwarts, under the castle's protection. Ms. Tonks will begin preparations for her teaching assistant position, and Harry will be quietly enrolled ahead of the official start of term." Dumbledore's blue eyes twinkled briefly. "A private sorting ceremony might be arranged soon, to determine your house placement." "And Voldemort?" Tonks pressed. "He'll continue hunting us. And now he knows our shield can counter even killing curses." "Indeed," Dumbledore nodded. "Which is why we must accelerate our own plans as well. The time has come to move from defensive preparation to more proactive measures." The days that followed were a whirlwind of activity. Harry and Tonks were given quarters in a private wing of the castle, connected to both the staff section and student dormitories via hidden passages. Their rooms were adjacent, with a shared common area, an arrangement that acknowledged both their bonds' need for proximity and the appearance of propriety that would be necessary once term began. Harry's private sorting ceremony took place 3 days after their arrival. Only Dumbledore, McGonagall, and Tonks were present as he sat on the 3-legged stool and allowed the ancient sorting hat to be placed on his head. Difficult, very difficult," a small voice said in his ear. "Plenty of courage, I see. Not a bad mind either. There's talent, oh yes, and a thirst to prove yourself, but what's this? A bond, deep and true, and something else, something foreign." Harry tensed, wondering if the hat could sense Voldemort's soul fragment within him. "Don't worry, young Potter," the hat reassured him. "I've sorted many complicated minds in my time. Now, where to put you? Your bond with the Tonks girl has given you qualities of all four houses: Hufflepuff loyalty, Ravenclaw intellect, Slytherin cunning, and Gryffindor courage. Harry thought of his parents, both Gryffindors according to the stories Tonks had shared. But he also considered the strategic advantage of being placed elsewhere, away from where everyone would expect the boy who lived to go. Interesting thoughts, the Hat murmured. You could do well in any house, you know. But I think, considering everything, better be Gryffindor. The last word was shouted aloud to the small audience. McGonagall looked pleased, Dumbledore unsurprised, and Tonks gave him a thumbs up, her hair briefly flashing Gryffindor red and gold before returning to its usual pink. Congratulations, Mr. Potter, McGonagall said warmly. I look forward to having you in my house. With his sorting complete, Harry's preparation for actual student life intensified. He and Tonks spent hours discussing how to balance his unusual situation, a first-year student with advanced magical knowledge, connected by a rare soul bond to a staff member, and carrying a fragment of the darkest wizard in recent history. The key will be controlled underperformance, Tonks advised during one strategy session. You can't hide your talent completely, that would draw as much attention as showing everything you can do. You'll need to be good, but not suspiciously good. Like being in the top quarter of the class, but not the very top. Harry suggested. Exactly. Except perhaps in defense against the dark arts, where your natural aptitude would be expected given your history. Dumbledore, meanwhile, accelerated their research into soul magic and Horcruxes. He provided carefully selected texts from the restricted section, ancient tomes that detailed theoretical approaches to soul manipulation that might help them understand their unique situation. One evening, as Harry and Tonks pored over a particularly cryptic volume on magical bonds, Dumbledore arrived with news. We have confirmed the identity of your attackers in Hogsmeade, he announced without preamble. As suspected, they were Death Eaters, specifically, a group led by Antonin Dolohov, one of Voldemort's most loyal followers. Have they been captured? Tonks asked. Unfortunately, no. They disapparated before the Ministry response team arrived. Dumbledore settled into a chair by the fire. However, we did glean valuable intelligence. Dolohov was acting on direct orders from Voldemort himself, orders to capture you both alive and unharmed if possible. He wants to study our bond, Harry said grimly. Precisely. Which brings me to a theory I've been developing. Dumbledore leaned forward, his expression intense. Your description of how your shield absorbed the killing curse has led me to reconsider certain aspects of ancient protective magic. I believe your bond may have evolved into something beyond even what we anticipated. What do you mean? Tonks asked. The anima vinculum typically connects two complete souls, Dumbledore explained. But in your case, it formed between a soul already containing a fragment of another and a metamorphmagus soul naturally adapted to change. This unique combination appears to have created a form of magic that actively resists and potentially neutralizes Voldemort's power, including his killing curse. Harry and Tonks exchanged glances, their bond humming with the implications. Are you suggesting our bond could be a weapon against him? Harry asked quietly. Not merely a weapon, Dumbledore corrected. Possibly the weapon. The power the Dark Lord knows not mentioned in the prophecy. The revelation hung in the air between them, monumental in its implications. Their bond, formed by chance when Tonks protected a 6-year-old Harry, might be the key to defeating the darkest wizard of the age. How do we use it? Tonks asked practically. We can't exactly ask Voldemort to throw killing curses at our shield until something happens. No, Dumbledore agreed with a small smile. But we can explore the bond's properties more systematically. There is a room here at Hogwarts, the Room of Requirement, that might prove useful for such experiments. The Room of Requirement proved to be a revelation, a magical space that transformed itself according to their needs. For Harry and Tonks, it became a vast training area with specialized equipment for testing their combined magic in ways that had previously been impossible. Under Dumbledore's guidance, they began exploring the offensive capabilities of their bond. They discovered that by focusing their combined intent differently, they could modify their signature purple energy to perform various functions, cutting like a blade, binding like ropes, even temporarily nullifying other magic within a limited area. "It's responding to our will," Harry observed after a particularly successful experiment. "Almost like wandless magic, but more intuitive." "The bond has matured," Dumbledore noted. "It's no longer merely connecting your existing magic but creating something new between you, something greater than the sum of its parts." As August progressed, their training intensified. Dumbledore brought in specialized targets that simulated dark curses, allowing them to practice defensive techniques without actual danger. To their amazement, their combined shield could indeed absorb and neutralize even simulated killing curses, though the effort left them both magically drained. "The key seems to be synchronized intent," Tonks noted after one session. "When our minds are completely aligned, the shield is strongest." They developed a technique they called resonance, a state of perfect magical harmony achieved through their bond, where their separate powers amplified each other exponentially. In this state, they could perform feats of magic that should have been beyond either of them individually or even combined. Meanwhile, reports from the Order of the Phoenix indicated increased Death Eater activity throughout Britain. Voldemort himself remained hidden, but his influence was spreading: mysterious disappearances, subtle threats against ministry officials, quiet recruitment among dark creatures. "He's building his forces," Moody reported during a secure flu call. "Getting ready for something big." "The attack in Hogsmeade wasn't an isolated incident," Kingsley added. "We've identified 3 other attempts to locate Potter in the past week alone." The pressure of their situation weighed heavily on both Harry and Tonks. Through their bond, they supported each other, sharing strength when one faltered, offering perspective when doubts arose. Their connection had become not just a magical phenomenon but an emotional bedrock, particularly as the reality of their unique burden settled upon them. 2 weeks before the official start of term, Harry had another significant dream about Voldemort, the first since they had established their mental shielding technique. Unlike previous nightmares, this one came not through his scar connection but through normal sleep, yet with a clarity that suggested importance. He was in some kind of ancient chamber, Harry described to Tonks and Dumbledore the next morning. There was a stone archway with a black veil, like the one in that vision Malfoy gave us. But this time, Voldemort was performing a ritual of some kind, drawing energy from the archway into himself. Dumbledore's expression grew grave. "The Death Chamber in the Department of Mysteries. The archway is known as the Veil, a gateway between the world of the living and the dead. What kind of ritual could he be performing there?" Tonks asked. "One that concerns me greatly," Dumbledore admitted. "There are ancient magics associated with the Veil, magics that, in theory, could be used to reconstruct a damaged soul or even create a new physical form." Harry felt a chill run down his spine. "He's trying to get a body back. A real one, not whatever partial form he has now." "It appears so," Dumbledore nodded. "And if he succeeds, his power will increase substantially." "Then we need to stop him before that happens," Tonks said firmly. Dumbledore studied them both for a long moment, his blue eyes calculating. "Perhaps. But such an endeavor would be extremely dangerous. The Department of Mysteries is one of the most heavily protected locations in the wizarding world, and the Death Chamber particularly so." "But if Voldemort can get in," Harry began. "He likely has assistance from within the Ministry," Dumbledore finished. "Which complicates matters considerably." Despite Dumbledore's reservations, they began planning a potential intervention. If Voldemort was indeed preparing a ritual to restore himself, preventing it could buy them crucial time to develop their own capabilities further. The planning sessions involved not just Harry and Tonks but key Order members, Moody, Kingsley, McGonagall, and others with specialized knowledge or skills. Maps of the Ministry were studied, security protocols analyzed, potential allies within the Department of Mysteries identified. Throughout these preparations, Harry continued his own studies for the approaching school year. Despite the extraordinary circumstances, he was still an incoming first-year student, and maintaining that cover would be essential once term began. "Your classmates will arrive in 10 days, McGonagall reminded him during a transfiguration lesson. "While certain allowances have been made for your unique situation, Mr. Potter, I expect you to comport yourself as any other student during regular classes." "Yes, Professor," Harry assured her. "I'll be appropriately average." McGonagall's lips twitched in what might have been a suppressed smile. "Perhaps slightly above average would be acceptable in my class." As the start of term approached, their intervention plan took final shape. Kingsley, using his senior Auror status, would lead a small team including Tonks on a security inspection of the Department of Mysteries. Harry, under his invisibility cloak and connected to Tonks through their bond, would accompany them, his presence deemed necessary given his unique ability to sense Voldemort. "The objective is reconnaissance only," Dumbledore emphasized during their final briefing. "Determine what ritual Voldemort is preparing, what stage it has reached, and whether intervention is truly necessary." The mission was scheduled for August 30th, 2 days before the Hogwarts Express would bring the rest of the students to school. That morning, Harry and Tonks prepared meticulously, checking their emergency supplies, rehearsing communication signals, and practicing their resonance state one final time. "Nervous?" Tonks asked as they walked toward Hogsmeade, where they would apparate to the Ministry's visitor entrance in London. "A bit," Harry admitted. "But not about the danger. More about—" He hesitated, searching for words. "About potentially facing him directly," Tonks finished, understanding flowing through their bond. "The wizard who killed your parents. Who gave you that scar? Who's been hunting you all your life?" Harry nodded. "Part of me wants to confront him, to end this once and for all. But another part knows we're not ready yet." "That's wisdom, not weakness," Tonks assured him, her hand finding his and squeezing gently. "Our time will come. Today is just about gathering information." They met Kingsley and Moody at the Three Broomsticks, now repaired after the attack weeks earlier. The plan was straightforward: enter through official channels using Kingsley's authorization, proceed to the Department of Mysteries under the pretext of a security review, investigate the Death Chamber, and depart without confrontation if possible. "Remember," Moody growled as they prepared to depart, "constant vigilance. If anything feels wrong, anything at all, we abort immediately." The Ministry of Magic was quieter than usual when they arrived, a Saturday afternoon with minimal staff present. Kingsley led them through security with practiced ease, his senior Auror credentials clearing their path without question. Harry remained beneath his invisibility cloak, connected to Tonks through a light touch on her wrist. The Department of Mysteries, with its rotating circular chamber of identical doors, should have been confusing, but Kingsley navigated it with surprising familiarity. "This way," he murmured, selecting a door that led to a long corridor. Through their bond, Harry felt Tonks's growing unease. "Something's off," her thoughts reached him clearly. "Kingsley knows this place too well." Harry shared her concern. The senior Auror moved with the confidence of someone who had visited many times, not just received a briefing. The corridor ended at a plain black door. Kingsley paused, drawing his wand. "The Death Chamber lies beyond. Be prepared, the veil has strange effects on those who approach it." As they entered, Harry immediately recognized the amphitheater-like room from his dream, stone benches descending to a central dais where the archway stood, its tattered black veil moving gently in a non-existent breeze. "No signs of ritual preparation," Moody noted, his magical eye swiveling to take in every corner of the chamber. "Perhaps we should examine the archway more closely," Kingsley suggested, moving down the stone steps toward the dais. Through their bond, Harry felt Tonks's suspicion crystallize into alarm. "Don't follow him," she thought urgently. "Something's wrong." Harry squeezed her wrist in acknowledgement, keeping the invisibility cloak tight around himself as they hesitated at the top of the steps. Moody seemed to share their caution, remaining beside them rather than following Kingsley. "Shacklebolt," Moody called. "What exactly are we looking for here?" Kingsley reached the dais and turned back to face them. For a moment, his expression remained neutral, then slowly transformed into a cold smile that looked utterly wrong on his usually stoic face. "Why, you're looking for me, of course," he said, but the voice was wrong, higher, colder, with a strange sibilant quality. Horror dawned simultaneously for both Harry and Tonks as they realized the truth: this wasn't Kingsley at all. "Polyjuice," Moody spat, raising his wand. "Stupefy." The stunning spell flew true, but Kingsley deflected it with casual ease. "Really, Alastair? After all these years, you still open with a stunning spell?" The false Kingsley waved his wand in a complex pattern. Instantly, the doors around the chamber sealed with audible clicks. "I must thank you for your punctuality," he continued, his features beginning to shift and bubble as the Polyjuice potion's effect started to fade. "Setting a trap is one thing, having the quarry arrive precisely on schedule is quite another." "Fall back," Moody growled to Tonks. "Get Potter out. I'll hold him off." But before they could move, dark shapes apparat onto the stone benches surrounding them, at least a dozen Death Eaters in masks and robes, wands aimed directly at them. "That won't be possible, I'm afraid," said the figure on the dais, whose appearance had now transformed completely. Where Kingsley had stood moments before was a tall, skeletally thin man with chalk-white skin, a flat, snake-like nose with slits for nostrils, and burning red eyes. Lord Voldemort had regained a body, not the partial, transitional form from Harry's dreams, but a fully realized physical presence radiating dark power. "Harry Potter," he said, his red eyes finding Harry despite the invisibility cloak. "And Nymphadora Tonks. How kind of you to accept my invitation after all." Harry felt frozen in place, overwhelmed by the sudden shift from mission to trap. Through their bond, Tonks's thoughts reached him, a stream of tactical assessments, escape options, and protective intentions that helped clear his own shock. "Where's the real Kingsley?" Tonks demanded, her wand steady despite the dire situation. "Detained, not dead," Voldemort replied with alarming casualness. "A valuable ministry official has many uses. Now, shall we dispense with the pretense of this inspection?" His lipless mouth curved in a cruel smile. "You came seeking information about my ritual. Allow me to satisfy your curiosity, it's already complete." The implication struck Harry with terrible clarity. The dream hadn't been a warning of something to come, it had been a vision of something already accomplished. Voldemort had already used the veil to restore himself. "Impressive, isn't it?" Voldemort gestured to his new form. "The veil exists at the boundary between life and death. For one who has ventured further along the path of immortality than any wizard before, it provided unique opportunities for reconstitution." "You won't win," Harry said, finding his voice as he removed the invisibility cloak. There was no point maintaining the pretense of hiding now. "Whatever you're planning, we'll stop you." "Brave words from a child," Voldemort remarked, seeming genuinely amused. "But I haven't brought you here to fight, Harry. I've brought you here to learn." He raised his wand, not toward them but toward the veil itself. "Anima Revelio." The tattered black curtain billowed, then began to glow with an eerie blue light. Within that glow, shadowy figures seemed to move, not quite ghosts, but something similar. "The veil reveals the nature of souls," Voldemort explained. "Watch closely." The blue light expanded, washing over everyone in the chamber. As it touched Harry and Tonks, their bond flared visibly, the familiar purple energy manifesting around them both like an aura. But there was something else. Thin strands of sickly green energy threaded through the purple, connecting back to Voldemort himself. "You see?" Voldemort said softly. "The fragment of my soul within you both. Diluted by your bond, yes, but still present. Still mine." Harry felt sick at the visible confirmation of what they had learned from the memory vial. Through their bond, Tonks's disgust and determination mirrored his own. "This connection is why you cannot truly oppose me," Voldemort continued. "Why neither of you can ever be free. But I offer an alternative, a partnership. Join me willingly, share the secrets of your bond, and I will teach you how to master the soul magic that binds us all. Never, Tonks spat. We'll find a way to remove your soul fragment without your help. Will you? Voldemort's red eyes gleamed with amusement. How? The only known methods would likely kill you both. Your bond has created something unprecedented, a shared Horcrux that sustains itself through your connection. As Voldemort spoke, Harry felt something unexpected through their bond, a subtle shift in Tonks's magical signature, a new determination forming. He's right about one thing, her thoughts reached him clearly. Our bond is unprecedented. And that means the rules don't apply to us the way he thinks they do. Harry understood immediately. Throughout their years together, they had repeatedly discovered that their bond could accomplish things deemed impossible by conventional magical theory. If Voldemort believed their options were limited by standard soul magic principles, he was underestimating them. You're correct that our bond is unique, Harry said aloud, deliberately drawing Voldemort's attention while Tonks mentally prepared something through their connection. But you've miscalculated what that means. Have I? Voldemort seemed more curious than concerned. Enlighten me. Our bond doesn't just connect us, Harry continued, feeling Tonks's magic building behind his words. It transforms us. Changes the very nature of our magic. Including any fragments of your soul that might be present. As he spoke, Harry reached for Tonks's hand. The moment their fingers touched, they entered resonance, their most powerful state of magical synchronization. The purple light of their bond flared blindingly bright, engulfing them both completely. Through their connection, they executed the plan they had silently formulated, not to fight or flee, but to cleanse. Together, they focused their combined will on the green threads of Voldemort's soul fragment, isolating them within their purple energy. Years of practice in manipulating their bond allowed them to identify exactly what was foreign, what didn't belong. What are you doing? Voldemort demanded, his confident tone giving way to alarm as he sensed their intention. Stop this at once. Crucio. The torture curse struck their purple shield but couldn't penetrate. Around them, Death Eaters began firing spells as well, while Moody engaged those nearest to him in fierce combat. Within their resonant state, Harry and Tonks were barely aware of the external chaos. Their entire focus was inward, on the delicate magical surgery they were attempting, separating Voldemort's soul fragment from their bond without damaging their own connection. We need something to contain it, Tonks thought within their shared consciousness. Otherwise it might return to him or seek another host. Harry's awareness shifted to the veil just yards away, the gateway between worlds that Voldemort himself had used for his ritual. There, he thought, directing their attention to the archway. We send it through the veil. Tonks's agreement flowed through their bond. Together, they began to draw the green threads out of their purple light, condensing the fragments into a small, writhing mass of dark energy. Voldemort seemed to realize their intention too late. No, he shrieked, abandoning magic entirely to physically lunge toward them. You cannot. But he couldn't reach them in time. With a final surge of their combined will, Harry and Tonks projected the condensed soul fragment directly toward the veil. It passed through the tattered black curtain with a sound like a distant scream, vanishing into whatever lay beyond. The backlash was immediate and violent. A shockwave of magical energy exploded outward from the veil, knocking everyone in the chamber off their feet. Harry and Tonks maintained their resonant state, their purple shield protecting them from the worst of the blast. Voldemort, however, took the brunt of the magical backlash. He was hurled across the chamber, colliding with the stone wall with bone-crushing force. Around them, Death Eaters either disapparated in panic or were similarly thrown by the explosion. As the chaos subsided, Harry and Tonks carefully dissolved their resonant state, returning to normal awareness while maintaining a protective shield around themselves and the injured Moody. We need to leave, Tonks said urgently. Now, before they regroup. Harry nodded, but couldn't tear his eyes from Voldemort's crumpled form across the chamber. The Dark Lord was still alive, Harry could sense it, but severely weakened by the severing of the soul connection. "He's not finished," Harry said quietly. "This was just one fragment. He has other Horcruxes. But he no longer has a direct line into your mind," Tonks pointed out. "We've broken that connection for good." They helped Moody to his feet, the old aura bleeding from several wounds but still alert. "What the bloody hell did you two do?" he demanded, his magical eye fixed on the now quiescent veil. "Removed Voldemort's soul fragment from our bond," Harry explained simply. "And sent it through the veil." Moody's normal eye widened in astonishment. "Just like that? Soul magic that advanced wizards spend lifetimes studying, and you two just improvised a solution." "That's what our bond does," Tonks said with a small, fierce smile. "It makes the impossible possible." They made their way cautiously up the stone steps, expecting resistance from remaining Death Eaters. But the chamber had emptied, only Voldemort remained, stirring feebly near the wall where he had landed. As they reached the exit, Harry glanced back one last time. The Dark Lord had managed to raise himself to a seated position, his red eyes fixed on Harry with pure hatred. "This changes nothing, Potter," Voldemort called, his voice weaker but still chilling. "I will return to full strength. And when I do, neither you nor your bond will save you." Harry met that burning gaze without flinching. "We'll be waiting," he replied simply. The journey back to Hogwarts was tense but uneventful. They found the real Kingsley imprisoned in a maintenance closet near the Ministry entrance, unconscious but alive. After reviving him and providing a brief explanation, they all apparat to Hogsmeade and made their way directly to Dumbledore's office. The headmaster listened gravely to their account of the trap, Voldemort's restored form, and their extraordinary magical feat with the soul fragment. "You have accomplished something remarkable," he said when they finished. "Something I would have considered impossible without years of preparation and specialized magical tools." "It wasn't planned," Tonks admitted. "We just knew it would work. The bond showed us how. Therein lies its true power," Dumbledore nodded. "Not merely in combining your existing abilities, but in creating new magical possibilities through your connection." His expression turned more serious. "However, Voldemort is correct about one thing, this is not the end. He will recover, and his other Horcruxes remain. But we've proven they can be defeated," Harry pointed out. "And without his connection to me, his information will be limited." "Indeed," Dumbledore agreed. "You have won a significant victory today, perhaps the first real victory against Voldemort since your mother's sacrifice protected you as an infant." In the days that followed, Harry and Tonks noticed subtle but important changes in their bond. Without Voldemort's soul fragment threading through it, their connection felt purer somehow, more completely their own. Their combined magic maintained its purple signature, but the color seemed brighter, clearer. Their abilities hadn't diminished, if anything, they had greater control and precision. What they lost was the occasional dark impulse, the flashes of foreign emotion that had sometimes intruded, especially during moments of stress or anger. "It's like I've been wearing slightly foggy glasses all these years, and someone finally cleaned them," Harry tried to explain to Tonks as they walked by the lake on the eve of the other student's arrival. "I know what you mean," she nodded. "I didn't realize how much his presence was contaminating things until it was gone." The confrontation at the Department of Mysteries had accelerated Dumbledore's plans for opposing Voldemort. With the Dark Lord now restored to a physical form, albeit temporarily weakened, the wizarding world faced a renewed threat that couldn't be ignored. "The Ministry remains officially in denial," Dumbledore informed them during a meeting with key Order members. "Minister Fudge refuses to acknowledge Voldemort's return despite Kingsley's eyewitness account." "Typical," Moody growled. "Won't believe it until the dark marks floating over his own house." "This presents both challenges and opportunities," Dumbledore continued. "While official support will be limited, we can operate with less scrutiny than if the Ministry were actively involved. Plans were made, responsibilities assigned. The Order would be expanded, recruitment accelerated. Voldemort's Horcruxes would become the primary focus of research and intelligence gathering. For Harry and Tonks specifically, Dumbledore had clear directives. Harry must experience as normal a first year at Hogwarts as possible, he insisted. Both for his own development and to maintain our strategic advantage. Voldemort expects him to be isolated, protected, not integrated into the student body with a network of loyal friends. And my role? Tonks asked. Officially, you remain the assistant professor for defense against the dark arts, working with Professor Quirrell. Dumbledore's eyes twinkled briefly. Unofficially, you will continue Harry's advanced training and assist me in researching methods to locate and destroy Horcruxes. The evening before the Hogwarts Express was scheduled to arrive, Harry stood at his dormitory window, looking out over the grounds. Tomorrow, Gryffindor Tower would be filled with his new housemates. He would begin classes, make friends, navigate the complex social world of Hogwarts, all while carrying the knowledge and responsibilities that set him apart. Through their bond, he felt Tonks approaching before he heard her footsteps. Nervous about tomorrow? She asked, joining him at the window. A bit, Harry admitted. I've spent 4 years with mostly adults, training for magical combat and studying advanced theory. Now I'm supposed to act like a normal 11-year-old discovering magic for the first time. Just be yourself, Tonks advised. The version of yourself you would have been without all this. She gestured vaguely, encompassing their extraordinary situation. Curious, excited about magic, making friends. The rest will take care of itself. Harry nodded, appreciating her perspective. Will it be strange for you? Teaching students only a few years younger than yourself? Probably, Tonks grinned, her hair cycling through professorial gray before returning to pink. But I've had good practice handling one particular student who asks too many questions. Harry laughed, grateful for the moment of normalcy. Through their bond, he felt her genuine affection and pride, emotions that had only grown clearer since they'd removed Voldemort's influence. Whatever happens this year, Tonks said more seriously, remember that our bond remains our greatest strength. Not just magically, but in every way. You're never alone, Harry. Not anymore. I know, Harry replied simply. In those 2 words lay years of shared experiences, challenges overcome, and a connection deeper than mere words could express. As the last light of day faded over the Hogwarts grounds, they stood together at the window, their bond humming peacefully between them. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new faces, the beginning of Harry's official magical education. But tonight, in this quiet moment, they were simply Harry and Tonks, 2 souls connected by chance, choice, and a purple flame that burned as one. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.